A little bit of the bubbly.
Oh, son of a bitch!
I'm a comedian, yeah.
Jesus!
Stone Cold EP will like a couple cheeseburgers.
Raging elephants!
Undertaker, you come on down!
Die, die, die.
Oh my God!
Welcome back to the Crucial Squared Circle, the most crucial wrestling podcast with Mark Franchise, Davison Sarai, and the most dangerous letter in the alphabet, T.
And of course, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you!
Yeah, welcome back to the show. It is Mark Franchise, and it is the Crucial Squared Circle. Joining me, as always, my lovely co-host, Davison Sarai.
Hello, Franchise.
And taking the place of T tonight is returning special guest, Jimmy Hype Shalwin.
Hey!
Back in the game.
Hype.
Thanks for coming in and filling the spot of T tonight, who is feeling the end of the week blues, no doubt.
You said spot OT.
Spot OT.
It's really cute.
No crumpets, sadly.
Well,
Yeah, sorry.
that's a throwback. I remember, like, on our first or second show, we took a good 40 seconds making fun of the crumpets and trumpets and tea thing.
Yeah, that was an exciting beginning of the show.
Wasn't that something? Look how far we've come. Making the same jokes 10 episodes later.
Good Lord. We got a lot to get into today. There's so much going down this weekend and just on the show to catch up with everything that's happened. And one of the big things that just rolled out was how Jim Cornette and Dave Meltzer have officially broken up as friends.
When you told me last night, Franchise, that this was going on, I was shocked that I hadn't heard about it, and I realized I've been a little lazy with all my keep up.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm dying to hear. I stayed away from it. I wanted you to fill me in.
Well, the reason that they broke up was because of Kenny Omega.
That's really weird.
So
I would have never guessed that had anything to do with it.
Somebody had mentioned something. Somebody had brought what it all stemmed from was a tweet that somebody had sent out. And Meltzer had kind of stuck up for Kenny Omega. And what happened was Cornette sent a tweet out and it said, "Dave, I've been sick all week, so fuck it. You call this Harpo Marx motherfucker a goddamn genius at match layout. Better in Flair and Steamboat, blah fucking blah. He wrestled sex dolls and kids. He's a phony clown and embarrassment. Fuck him, quit swinging on his dick, or fuck you. Fuck."
So, pause.
That's how this begins.
I'm sick, so fuck it. Basically, I want to go back a hot second. We're going to get right back into this. I've never lost track of the fact that when I started kind of following a lot of these wrestling podcasts in the last year and a half or so,
Yeah.
Cornette was always going off about how much he hates Trump and these gun nuts, right?
Yeah.
And he was kind of, I thought, painting himself as some kind of, like, at least liberal or more. It's quite obvious now that he was, I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but now I think he's finally just like, okay, I am done with the facade. People hate me. I've been ousted from wrestling. Fuck it. Here I go. And I think these are going to be the true colors, and I'm not remotely surprised. Continue.
Yeah. So Meltzer kind of gets back into it, and he said it's in regards to what you just said. Somebody had pointed out. He was like, "There we go. I was waiting for it to all come to fruition.
Bam.
And I guess here it is." And Meltzer responded saying, "It's out of touch nonsense. Omega holds the gate record at the Cow Palace. Don and All Out had gigantic ticket demands and immediate sellouts, and he headlined all three. Clinging to the idea he can't draw in the U.S. is something invalidated a long time ago."
Thank you.
And then Cornette, if you'll excuse the AEW pun, doubles down.
Hey, that's a good one.
"It's a goddamn embarrassment to me. I've told people for years you're a smart guy about wrestling. And now you got these phony play wrestlers so far up your ass that you're making an idiot out of both of us. If kids playing video games in the ring is what wrestling is now, let it die. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for ever defending Dave Meltzer against people who said he was an idiot. Dave, I hope the balding fucks and Olivier..." What the fuck?
He calls him Kenny Olivier a lot, I know.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's what
He overacts.
Okay.
He's so flamboyant. Yeah.
Thank you. He referring to him sucking up to you are worth you looking like a lunatic. Better than Flair and Steamboat. How about smellier than my dog's shit? #fuck. What the hell?
He's really eloquent when he wants to be.
Yeah, no doubt. Dave, you're fucking senile. It's not too many spots. It's blatantly phony silliness and mocking of the business right out in the open. And you know that. But you can't get off Olivier's, is that what he said?
Olivier.
Olivier's-
Olivier.
Yeah. He was an old big-time actor, like in the 40s or something,
Yeah,
30s,
yeah.
40s.
Okay.
Which again goes to show this guy's points of reference.
Yeah, right. Like, who the
Fucking
fuck
mummy.
remembers this? Olivier's jocking just a minute. For fuck's sake, act your age, not like a Japanese schoolgirl. #Rio.
Wow.
So then Meltzer said, you mean like a manager with a tennis racket and a tag team that crawls on its hands and knees to the manager to hug in the middle of a fight?
Finally.
How come that doesn't happen in boxing and MMA? And he answered back with a non-answer.
Of course he did.
More like an asshole who lies because he desperately wants to hang out with the cool kids so people don't say he's out of touch and sacrifices all his credibility to say Harpo Marx is Frank Gosh. You know he sucks, Dave, and I guess you do too. Fuck you, lose my number.
Cornette doesn't want to have any friends anymore.
And that's what Meltzer followed up with. He said, lies, you only have name-calling to back you up. I only resort to facts. You're getting more and more desperate here. One of us does a modern business analysis of the value of demos and rights fees. The other screams AEW will be out of business by the end of the month. One of us understood the marketplace. The other was clueless. I had hoped every week you'd come around, but now you can't because you dug yourself in a hole.
Hello.
Please dig up and escape rather than continually dig deeper. You have a lot to offer, and your hatred is throwing it away.
By the way, even if Cornette somehow developed the backbone to admit he was wrong, which is not going to happen, if he gained some kind of insight and was willing to compromise, which is not going to happen, I think he's just burnt. He knows it. He is so far out of touch. We made the joke before that he was kicked out of the party and now he's on the sidewalk telling everybody not to go in because it sucks.
Right, exactly.
He's now exactly that nerd kid who was a bully for the longest, kind of cool, and now we're in 9th grade where it's not as cool anymore and you're still pulling the same old shit and everybody's like over it, and then you become a neckbeard in the basement and next thing you know, you're fucking plotting overthrows with your white supremacist friends. That's Cornette.
See, to me, Cornette is a really smart guy. Like, he knows
he's
the wrestling
got-
business.
Sure he does.
Tons of knowledge.
The problem is, like, stuff does change no matter what any industry. Like, I remember years back, I did listen to his podcast a lot. There was a gripe on the TV ratings were good. He's like, yeah, but what about the pay-per-views? And this is just a few years back. TV is clearly where the money is at this point. Pay-per-views were a dying industry leading into the network. And it's just, look where the money is, not necessarily the thing that used to be where the money is.
Right.
I think he's out of touch on that, and he's got enough people with the internet these days. He's got enough people backing him up and saying, yeah, of course you're right, just like, the rise of the flat earthers and all this. You get enough people telling you you're right with a crazy thought, and you're going to keep running with it if you really want to. And also, he's got a lot of bad blood with Omega from back in the Ring of Honor days over the issue where Omega took a Japanese booking over
Oh, I always forget that detail.
yeah, I think it's a lot of it, like in Cornette's point. If I'm in his shoes, there, I probably hold a grudge against that dude forever.
Wasn't the detail that Omega had committed to a show and then he lied? According to Cornette, hurt his knee or something, couldn't make it, and then he found out he wrestled in Japan the same weekend?
Yeah, he sent like a picture. I remember this. He sent like a picture, and it was like an infected foot that clearly wasn't his.
That's what it was.
Something like that.
Yeah, my toe was like falling off with gangrene, right?
Yeah. And Cornette and Simultaneously recovered quickly and made it to Japan the same weekend.
Right.
And I think he has issues with the Bucks over the similar type stuff. I think he was trying to shoot an angle with them that never really came to be, and they wanted nothing to do with him, as they've said several times. So I think it's a lot of bad blood, more so than just not seeing what it is. I remember a couple weeks ago he argued that they get 1 million viewers. Like, well, 1 million's not even that much, is it? Like, it's a good amount for TNT.
He keeps changing, but he used to say they would never even, like we said, it won't last a week, and then you're not even going to get a quarter of a share, and now 1 million's not like, fuck that guy.
And I get not liking their product. I get, like, if that's not your bag, I get that. But at the point where, Cornette promoted shows for 92 is when Smoky Mountain started. They ran through 95. Am I right on that? 3-4 years?
I don't know the numbers, but it wasn't terribly long.
3-4 years. But like a decent little run.
Sure.
And they outdrew him with their first, 4 or 5 shows. Outdrew any show he had ever done. At that point, they've kind of got, you know what I mean? You got to kind of back down and be like, okay, well, they've got something here. Let's see what they do with it.
However, I argue that this whole issue is ego, like a lot of these things.
That's fair.
Like you said, Cornette has been a cornerstone. Everybody considers him like the encyclopedia of wrestling stuff. He knows that. In his mind, I am the authority. So if I say this thing sucks, but all of a sudden the entire landscape disagrees with me. That ego's too big to flip over on it, and now he's pissed, and he has to tear all these things down. That's at least a huge part, I think. But,
and again, we've crossed a plateau in professional wrestling where you have to be creative with whatever you're doing. Since the days of the Attitude Era, when they were like, okay, we're not pulling the wool over anybody's eyes anymore. We're gonna take this industry in a brand new direction. So now, even with independent wrestling, and now you see it with AEW, I feel like a lot of it has, at the end of the day, you should just have fun. You should be doing what you love. You should continue to create compelling storylines. You should continue to go out there and entertain and appreciate both aspects, the sport of wrestling and the art of entertainment, and blend the two together. And I think that's the best way to go about things. And I think some people are, like Cornette, getting a little worried that the entertainment factor and how people are entertaining now is so far off from where wrestling used to be. And it's just, he's getting mad triggered by everything.
He's locked into his favorite time period, and time hasn't moved. And he's outgrown. He's outdated.
And as a dude who's been in wrestling for like 20 years now, I see a lot of stuff coming up where I'm like, I don't like that. This is everything I was told was wrong, when I trained. But you see it gets over and it works, and I want to hate it because it's what I was always told was bad.
Yeah. Right.
But I've always in life tried to be very open and like, okay, well, like, it's working. Like, let's try to figure out why it works.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, Lucha Libre is something that's never made sense in my head. I've watched it. I've done random weird lucha shows and tried to figure out the style. It doesn't make any sense from what I know what I know of pro wrestling.
Right.
But it works. Who could say that CMLL hasn't been drawing for forever?
Jesus. I mean, didn't they routinely draw like 40,000-50,000 to the Mexico City
for decades
on the reg?
Selling, and it clearly works. I don't understand it. I'd love to figure it out someday. I probably won't. There's a lot of stuff like that though in indie wrestling, and I got a friend who just hates Orange Cassidy, and I try to but it worked. Like, what do you want him to do? What doesn't work? Like it works.
And you see,
it's amazing stuff.
And you see it works because immediately after you see WWE doing the same shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You saw the same thing at Royal Rumble when who was it that popped out?
Otis. Doze.
Oh yeah, Otis.
Tremendous. Yeah.
Yeah, popped right out. Which, don't get me wrong, I think I love Otis. I thought he's a solid dude, but you could tell immediately that they were jacking off of the Orange Cassidy hype.
Absolutely.
Because it gets over. Yes. People love it. And
can I offer one little correction of what we did? I was trying to be accountable. I agree that was a rip. We also talked about Alexa Bliss and Nikki having their big run towards each other hug moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're best friends, but come on, they never used to do that.
Right,
So
exactly.
hello, there's one. Now, we thought, though, you said you thought Guevara riding that tank in, and then you saw, what's her name, Shotzi Blackheart.
Yeah.
And she did it, and we thought that was a rip.
Yeah.
No, Shotzi's been doing that shit for years on the indies.
Oh, has she? Okay.
And so Guevara ripped that one. So, yeah, I just wanted to straighten that one out.
And to be logical, when I saw that he did that, the first thing that came into my mind wasn't. It was the kind of the joke on the whole DX invasion thing.
Yeah, that's how I took it too.
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless, that's him poking fun at. An amazing idea. Don't get me wrong, but just the fact that he came there in a play school tank was like, oh, what the hell is he doing?
I like Guevara, man. He's just a lot of fun stuff. He's always hustling the cue cards, or what do you call them? Poster boards.
We love that.
The only thing I will watch during commercial breaks of AEW. That's tremendous.
And a great way to keep you paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
And since we do blend music in a lot with this when we talk about this, it reminds me of that Frank Zappa interview that I don't know if you've seen it before, when he talks about the music industry and how it changed. And he mentions about how there was a time when there was a lot of new and creative music being made and pushed out. And I've even asked my dad about this, because I've been like, what was it like in the late 60s, in the mid to late 60s, when all these incredibly influential bands were just pumping out amazing music? It was probably one of the most incredible times in music history. Just tons of influential bands putting out these phenomenal records. And he talks about how they just took a chance on it, and they're like, I don't know what it is, but hey, let's keep going with it. Let's see what happens. And then eventually, he says that, okay, well, let's bring a hippie in here. because he gets it. So let's figure it out. And so they don't let him do anything important. They let him get the coffee, and then a couple months goes by. Okay, he's brought the coffee in on time. Let's get him a job. And then he's put in a position where he's starting to make decisions, and people bring him ideas, and he goes, no, that's not going to work because I know what works.
Well, here we go.
You start closing off new and creative ideas, and you try to force a product and force a new direction on a fan base. And I mean, it's quite clear that the music industry will never go back to rock. The music industry, I feel, has made a decision. The money is in pop music and it's in hip hop, and that's just the way of it. And they'll milk rock and metal for what they can do. They'll milk it for what it's worth, but it's never going to be the main focus again, because they realized they had milked rock for all that it had, and then they're like, now what do we go to? Well, then disco kind of came in. Disco turned into the R&B, and then boom, Prince and Michael Jackson just set that off into a complete direction. Then it was, oh man. And then you had new wave come along. So at the epicenter of it all, it was pop. And that became the main focal point. And there have been times throughout music history where rock and metal have tried to come back and, take back the spotlight. And in my personal opinion, it's never gone away. It's never died. It's never gotten any worse. It's just changed.
No, because you're describing just the mainstream. That's what everybody sees, and that's technically, quote-unquote, the business. But everything's still been happening under the radar, just like if WWE was, quote-unquote, the music biz. The rest of the world kept doing the cooler stuff that they couldn't get on TV.
Yeah.
And that's why AEW, again, is so great. They are the underground bands. They are the stuff that was like, this has always been cool. And now that mainstream radio is flopping, which, hello, now this is going to get some eyes. And, that's how Nirvana popped.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So, the rock was dead, but, man, the 90s were a hell of a time for rock.
No doubt.
Green Day,
yeah,
Foo Fighters. There were just all these bands that are still a thing today. The Chili Peppers, Blink-182. There's so many things that popped up in the 90s. And who's to say in another 5, 10 years, maybe 20, that the kids are sick of all the pop stuff? We've hit the wall on that. Maybe, someone picks up a guitar and starts a new revolution. I mean,
yeah. Well, you always hold out hope. It's just and the main point is that, and I think we touched on this in the last episode too, that when Vince bought out WCW, that was their main competition. And it was kind of viewed at the time like, well, I guess that's it. And that's kind of how I looked at it. I remember when they bought WCW out, I was like, wow, well, I guess I'm done. I'm done investing in this. And I watched for a couple more years afterwards, and I've always kept an eye on what's been going on. But it's like we mentioned, he doesn't have a monopoly or ownership of the sport of wrestling. Yeah. And he's changed that the wrestling mentality to sports entertainment. So
what's funny to me, franchise? For all the things that we have in common, and we never get into this on the air because we don't have to, but it is interesting how you and I found each other for this thing.
Yeah.
For whoever's listening in Hype, this is how we came to be. Yeah, I used to be a touring musician from 99 through about the mid 2000 aughts or whatever you call that, and had a handful of CDs out. And at the moment, it was this microscopic scene of underground metal and hardcore and punk and emo, all these things combining. And then those big bands of Dillinger Escape Plan and the Red Chord came out after that. It was big homogenization of all these things. So I was part of that. Mark was on the other side of the state hanging out with people I knew, listening to my CDs apparently.
Yeah.
And then we'd meet up all this time later. But it's interesting to me because you knew of us and we were ultra, ultra, ultra underground.
Yeah.
And so when they bought WCW, meaning WWE, and then you said you kind of tried to keep watching, but you said to yourself, that's it. When I hear you say that, it sounds like you're saying that must be the end of wrestling. What I did was, this sucks. And that's when I got into Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was this is the shit. And then that's been the blueprint for everything I think ever since.
No doubt. But that was when I was doing the NWF. I started the NWF in 99, and then we really started doing it in 2000. And we were kids. I was 15 in 2000.
I always forget I'm 100 years older than you too.
So when that happened, I was like, okay, let's just do our thing. Because I've always been watching it, but that's when I drifted away, and I was like, it became less important, and the NWF became more important. It became more of a priority to me. So it wasn't out of anger or it was just the simple fact that I was like, well, he did it. you know, and there was kind of that melancholy, like, well, what the hell is going to happen now?
Sure.
And there was still a lot of great wrestling going on, but it kind of just had this defeated feeling to it, you know? I mean, it was so sad at the end anyways. The state of WCW was, I mean, it was a freaking train wreck.
Can I jump back on the corny thing real quick?
People watch a train wreck, though.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
Kind of fun if you're not on the train. So we got Cornette once again saying Olivier over here has ruined wrestling with his fake bullshit, right?
Yeah.
I remember a bunch of weeks ago, T and I brought up, I think in our chat, the fact that some fans found out about Seth Rollins, and he used to participate in something called, like, have you ever heard about this? It was like sensual wrestling or something. It was borderline pornographic.
Oh, man.
And it may or may not have been influenced, like, towards the gay community, maybe, sort of?
I believe, yes. I have some knowledge on this I probably shouldn't share.
I mean, you don't feel...
Boy, I know a lot of people who've been involved in this, actually. Like, a lot of people who do wrestle. At least several who wrestle on TV still at this point who were involved in this.
I don't have a single problem with it, by the way.
Yeah, but I don't know if some people do, so I don't want to lie.
Yeah.
I don't know what's on the internet. Yeah, it was a company, the one I'm aware of, and I think there's several. It was a company that would pay a large amount of money to newer guys especially to do matches in like kind of an empty building in front of nobody, and then kind of emphasize like certain holds and like freeze frames, and they like the people who would make it more sexual, I guess.
Sure.
And yeah, it was a company we were well aware of. I actually was at one of the tapings for one of these. It was a place where I was training at the time, and I'd forgotten Wednesday was rented out for a place, so I showed up and we kind of hung out and watched a bit of it, and everyone kind of had good fun with it. Like, it was sort of done, you know, the guy's like, I'm getting good money for this, you know, nobody knows who I am. And we'll use Seth Rollins as an example because I didn't know him at that point. But yeah, you know what, you know, nobody's, you know, 100 people are seeing me on a weekend, so yeah, whatever, I can make some good, I can make 10 times my normal pay to do this one fun match and just kind of goof around with my buddies. And then, yeah, it's on the internet forever, though.
Right.
And,
but here's my point. You're right, it is on the internet, and a lot of people know about it.
Yeah.
And I've never once heard Cornette knock him. In fact, I've heard him say, Omega sucks. He should be more like Rollins in these ways. Let's also talk about the fact I've never once heard Cornette knock Vince or the WWE for the gobbledygooker, for Mantar, for, you know, WCW with the friggin' mummy or whatever that was, etc.
He wrestled the Ninja Turtle, Brian Hildebrand in the Ninja Turtle costume.
And we all know that there are a million more examples of this, which just goes to demonstrate again, he just has hemorrhoids and he's just bitching because he's got that one nut in his butt and he can't figure out a way to get rid of it.
Chris Candido had the quote about pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling. It was ridiculous on day one. Like,
thank you.
People are hitting ropes and bouncing back.
and then we talked about this. I was like, we're talking about a thing where you voluntarily run to the ropes and get hit by somebody.
Yeah, right.
You know, we're breaking kayfabe here. It's just like, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about entertaining. Mm-hmm. And I have to bring this up constantly, and I don't mean to sound like a mark here, but literally.
We're all marks.
Even today, going over to the Battle Creek offices, I was talking about our involvement with Independence Pro Wrestling, and one of my coworkers, he said, okay, and he did like the level with his hands. He's like, AEW or NXT? I was like, well, both. Yeah. I was like, NXT has phenomenal matches and incredible athletes. AEW is way more entertaining. And he was like, thank you. Oh my gosh. He's like, dude, I watch AEW every week. And you look at the audience, you look at the people in the audience, they look like people like us just hanging out to have a great time. And
they're going to the show to have fun, which is I think a lot of wrestling fans stopped doing years ago. They go to like chant and get over and hate guys and like...
Right.
No, wait, you aren't suggesting though that people aren't that way at the NXT shows. Because they're having a giant party there too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're having fun, no doubt. But it's a way more relaxed feel on AEW's television show.
Relaxed is a perfect. Okay.
Yeah. It's much more relaxed, and the way the wrestlers are acting as well, it's much more relaxed. We talked about that Santana spot where it was that 4-way tag team match, and the crowd starts cheering because there was a great combo because both athletes landed on their feet, and then Santana turns around like, yeah, big freaking deal. He wasn't even involved in the match at that point, and he's just kind of like clowning on the crowd. And that right there is just something you don't see wrestlers in WWE do, because they're not breaking. They're not.
There's rules. You're not supposed to do that.
There's
Exactly.
a script. This is a movie. Act the way we told you to act.
I haven't been to a WWE show in years and years, but the most fun I would have at shows were actually the house shows when they did Kalamazoo. And,
Over at Wings?
Yeah, over at Wings Stadium.
Yeah.
They were, because guys could go out and work and play with the crowd. They didn't have to be sure they didn't break all the rules that you're not supposed to do because it's TV, and you don't do that on TV. And it was just free form. It was like Kofi Kingston and The Miz went out and had this like super fun 12-minute match, and I was like, man, I'd have hated this match on TV just because it'd be what I would have seen 100 times. But they let the crowd influence things, and they reacted, and they were playing off of stuff. It was lovely. It was a chef giving you the meal you were ordering as opposed to the meal that the guy in the back told them to make.
Right, exactly. I remember one of the last, before I went to Monday Night Raw, the last Monday Night Raw at Joe Louis Arena, the last wrestling event, WWE event that I had been to was years and years prior, and I remember the main event was Owen versus Bret Hart.
Well, that's ages ago.
Oh my gosh, and it was hilarious. I remember, the one thing I do remember about is half the crowd was yelling at him, and the other half of the crowd was laughing. He had Bret in a compromising situation on the outside, and he's choking him with, mic cables and stuff, and you hear him, he's like, give me that damn mic. And he grabs the mic and he's like, I know all of you love me, but I hate every single one of you. And he just got this huge pop. And it was this mixture of hatred and laughter. And it's just even back then, apparently he was notorious for just putting on amazing house shows because he could get away with that kind of stuff.
That's like Jericho energy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I just feel like there's a more relaxed attitude. The people that watch AEW, I think, are people who generally want to be entertained with the sport of wrestling and with comedy and mixing the two together. And they've obviously still got a lot to work on and still have a lot to brush up on, but we go to the bar every Wednesday to watch AEW. It's a different viewing experience. Yeah. It's a different product. And for those people who are still saying they haven't delivered or it's not different. Like I said, I'm just kind of lost there.
Yeah. Was there a knockout blow between Meltzer and Corny, or did it just kind of fizzle out?
That was it. That was the last thing.
That was the knockout?
That last, when Meltzer was like, dude, get over your freaking anger because that's all you've got.
Yeah.
I dug Meltzer's shot about the manager and them crawling on their knees because that's that was the knock on Cornette, was they didn't do what you're supposed to do. And
right.
And Cornette's response was just, fuck you. You've lost.
Yeah. How dare you?
That's when you can't. We're
not evading facts anymore. We're just yelling.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I have my own knockout blow.
Yeah.
The Undertaker's been a walking dead man for 30 years, and he's the most revered person in the history of the company.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Cornette.
Well,
you're going to be a fan of The Undertaker? You better shut the fuck up.
And then he came out on the Stone Cold sessions and totally out of character.
Right.
So,
He exposed the business. I haven't heard anybody bitch about that yet.
I love to. I like Jim Cornette. I feel like I'm dumping on him. I love Jim Cornette as the dude who hates everybody exposing the business, and that dude has done more minutes, hours, whatever, of shoot content of anybody by thousands of hours.
Yeah.
He's done the most interviews, the most hours of podcasts. That is the dude who exposes the business the most.
Right.
Then I think we should sum it all up into now saying his issue is, don't rip me off. That's my shtick. Without admitting it. I'm the only one who can use a tennis racket. I'm the only one who can be a cornball. I'm the only one who can this and that. You do it, I'm going to blast your ass because that's mine.
Yeah, verily.
So, whatever, man. Sorry, Hype. I know you're being diplomatic. I want Cornette to...
No, I get you.
To join Limbaugh. But
that's a big Midnight Express. So that's
oh, they're tremendous. No question.
Cornette's great. Second best manager ever, my opinion.
Yeah. I'm into moral relativism. He can be a tremendous wrestling manager and a complete and utter dickhead at the exact same time. And I think that's probably true. You know what? Who's not a bunch of dickheads? The Broserweights. The winners of the most recent Dusty Classic. Mark, you said you did not see NXT.
No, I have not.
The opening segment, if you only want to watch 10 minutes NXT this week, is the Broserweights coming out of the back in a real fancy golf cart.
Yeah.
It's about the length of a sedan. It's got a middle section that's tricked out for their giant trophy, which is already like 9 feet tall. So by the time it's planted, it's like 11, 12 feet tall. Here comes Riddle. And by the way, Riddle was wearing a suit, looked real sharp.
Yeah.
Guess who wasn't wearing any shoes?
Who?
Come on.
Oh, he wasn't wearing shoes with the suit?
Of course not.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Now, I don't know if T watched it either. I hope T is not missing tonight because he had a coronary because he saw Riddle wearing a suit with no shoes. That's T's major. He's absolutely concerned about Riddle stubbing his toe and hurting his foot at some point.
I'm with him.
Yeah. Are you really?
Oh, yeah. I wrestled barefoot I wrestled barefoot one time and I fell off the top rope to the floor.
Aww.
I laid there. I was like, call it 30 it's over.
I mean, my whole point is Riddle's legitimately UFC history, and that's all they do is barefoot, you know what I mean? But so he gets in the ring, and there's been this concern about him having heat with Lesnar. I've always had a lot of concern with Vince is not going to be able to control that dude in the way he wants to. I'll be real surprised if he does make a dent in the big picture unless Vince gets so caught up in the XFL that he gets out of the way. But this was the first thing I've seen where he was really let loose for a good couple minutes on the mic, and he was so captivating and hilarious and unscripted. It was perfect. But the funniest thing to me was that they introduced this new song that I absolutely hope the crowd can glom onto. Bobby Fish is out there, and what did he say, Hype?
It was
a bigger fish to fry.
We're going to go after him. Roderick Strong talked him out of it, and then he said, yeah, we got bigger fish to fry.
At which point, oh, no, even before that, O'Reilly said, I'm not even going to consider you guys a tag team. You're Matthew Rydell, and you are Pete Dune, which I don't know why, but that popped me.
Yeah, Riley was pretty good. This is the only second I watched NXT. I thought it was phenomenal. So.
Yeah, I think he's really funny. But so the new thing is, Riddle in his stoner classic is like, he said fish. He proceeds to invent my new favorite thing in wrestling. How many fish would Bobby Fish fry if Bobby Fish could fry fish? The crowd didn't do much. Then he looks at Dunn and he says it again. And then the crowd gets it. He walks around the ring singing it now 4 times in a row. How many fish would Bobby Fish fry if Bobby Fish could fry fish? The crowd was chanting it. He stopped at the end. He got a standing ovation. I at that moment pictured him at WrestleMania in front of 90,000. I'm like, oh yeah. This would absolutely work if they let it.
Another line about where nobody else picked up on, I haven't seen him talk about it, was at the end of that, he finally finishes the song and says, Undisputed Era, riddle me this. And then I think it was O'Reilly, you could hear him yell, Matt Riddle said riddle. Nobody
I did not hear that.
I think it was O'Reilly, but I lost it for that.
He's DL, one of the funniest people on that company. They don't give him nearly enough time.
Yeah.
O'Reilly is absolutely hilarious. So anyway, that was my little spiel on that.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the scope too, AEW, the main event on their show was Cody Rhodes living up to the stipulations with them freaking whippings, which he legitimately took.
I mean, you don't fake that.
And I'll say this. Wardlow has the personality of a big block of cheese. But, did that boy freaking smoke Cody Rhodes with that belt. That was probably the nastiest one he took. Wardlow freaking, cranked up his arm.
Yeah. He wound up and came into it.
Yeah, that was the worst one by far. That was brutal. Right where it needed to be, too. Right near the end. Here comes the hired gun to get the big one.
And it sucked because, I was in, they're still, yes, they're feuding, but they're still co-workers, right? And I wonder, are they going to try to take care of Cody in any way here? Because it's going to suck regardless.
Yeah.
But are they going to try to, space these out or anything? Nope. He basically took 7 or 8 of them right in the exact same place on his right shoulder.
They had good pacing, but I think, you're in a situation where it's we got to get this over. You're building this up. And it was just another interesting, not to veer too far off, is the fact that there was a couple of times, people were kind of coming to his aid, including his wife, who now it seems is going to be taking. Now, this is the strange thing, because Awesome Kong has been written out of AEW.
I heard she was injured and going back on the TV show.
The Glow, the Glow series.
Yep.
And now it looks like the Nightmare Collective is done.
I heard that was dead in the water, though, anyway. They knew that.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
That wasn't going anywhere.
That wasn't clicking.
So now I'm just kind of curious what's going to happen because Arn Anderson came out there to his aid before his wife came out. So I'm curious if she's going to take more of a managerial role with him again.
I liked it when she was his wife. You know? I think she gets a lot more sympathy for him in that role.
Yeah.
He's already really sympathetic.
I mean, what is Arn Anderson? I mean, he has a piece of laminated paper.
Come on, guys. Hold on right here. Do we think that Rhodes should trust Anderson's? Because that's never been a thing that they should have done in the past. There has not been a Rhodes that an Anderson hasn't turned on at some point.
That's a valid point. And what we were talking
it
about.
feels like about 4 weeks maybe the turning point for that as well. Like my thoughts.
Right.
My question, though, is how many roads would an Anderson walk if an Anderson could walk roads? Try that again. That's why I get the big bucks for this job.
Yeah.
Here's my question. What do y'all think of this? Do you remember the outcry and this is too much and the disgust and this doesn't belong on TV after Moxley Omega's death match?
Yeah, I remember there was a lot of backlash for that,
Yeah.
at least on the internet.
Yeah. Have you noticed the response to the whipping? I have not heard a single negative.
There's I mean, at least on the internet, it's been pretty. I mean, nothing. There wasn't as much backlash from that as there was with that match.
Yeah. Oh, let me clarify. So I guess what I meant was for any of those big promos. So I listened to Brian Alvarez. I listened to 83. I listened to Pritchard. Whatever.
Yeah.
For the bigger names mentioning, most of them were pretty repulsed by the death match, and some of them were willing to give it a try.
Yeah.
Like even Meltzer, I think, was like, "Yeah, it was what it was, and it was well done, but I think it might have been a bit much." To me, objectively speaking,
Yeah.
I could still see worked elements, a lot of them, in that death match, right?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
A lot of them. There's no work in this. And for this to be praised more and to call the other too much is really weird to me. This was 100 times harder to watch for me than the other thing.
I'm debating which I'd rather take, the 3 worst spots in that death match or the straps. And I don't know, honestly. I have to sit and think it through.
What do you consider the 3 worst spots? This will be good because I have some questions for you about those because I have some theories.
I'm trying to remember the match now. I've only seen it once. And it was,
Well, the barbed wire bed was freaking filthy.
Yeah.
That didn't look fun at all.
Right.
Like, when they fell into that, I was like,
That giant nest.
now you got to get out of that shit.
Right. Well, and this is the thing, though, and I'm not trying to, overexpose.
The broom, I think, was the thing I would have liked the least.
That
Getting
was...
broom with the barbed wire broom.
Oh,
that
God.
Because you saw that draw immediate blood, right? When they came out of the barbed wire cage, there were no new cuts. And when Moxley crawled through that broken glass, he should have been lit up. He should have been lit up, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I think those two were a little razzmatazz.
Yeah. They looked brutal, but they were totally
good.
worked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. Broom was one of my...
Brutal. I think that was my least favorite thing.
yeah.
And then crawling through the glass, I like. Even
Scrape.
just the visual, that was
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
gruesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess, honestly, I guess that's where my feelings on the whole thing was. Is like, it's strange that you would, the main event or your main focus on your show is that stipulation, but you've spent time building this up.
Yeah.
And I think they did a good job of pacing it. And again, I think there, a lot of people who want now, and it's like, no, you just gotta just sit down and take a deep breath and relax.
When you get it right now, you lose all that quality.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
it's been conditioning that Vince McMahon has thrown out the marquee match for no reason, just to do it. Just let's get this week and worry about the pay-per-view next week. And
Yep.
Yeah.
you get it now all the time, and I think this pay-per-view build has been really good for me. Like,
yeah.
One of the best ones in a long, as far as a TV build to a pay-per-view. I mean, like, God, how long since a really good WWE show that you built up for years?
Yeah.
For months and months, I should say.
Because I mean, you see
can't think
that
of any.
cockiness. You see that cockiness in MJF, and he's sitting there and he's getting in his face, and they're trying to get. And then you see the frustration build on him, where he's like, "No, he's still taking these," and then he lets Wardlow get down
he was
on
great
him.
in that.
Yeah, he letting that emotion kind of come through, and then
Right.
the ultimate backstab by again kicking him in the nards and
That was so good.
bailing out, and then the freaking fan who charged at
That was
MJF.
Frankie Kazarian.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so a buddy
See,
of mine pointed
Mark,
out
I
the
told you
TV
this.
pads on it.
I told you this weeks ago. So, Hype, I'm glad you're here. Do you remember when there was the initial turn of MJF on Cody?
Yes.
He's walking up the aisle, and he gets blasted with a beer.
Yeah.
I swear to God that was a work. And these other two think that was totally legit.
I don't.
A couple weeks
I
later.
didn't think to look at it again.
Okay, well, here's
Wasn't it at
this
the
is
pay-per-view?
It wasn't
I don't know.
supposed to be it wasn't supposed to be a fan. It was because they mentioned like the locker room empty to chase him.
No, I'm talking
Apparently
about way
there were dudes in
back.
the crowd.
I'm talking about way
this
back.
week though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it wasn't presented as a fan. It wasn't meant to be presented as a fan. It's better that it came off as one, honestly.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
So there have been two different things, and that one was the thrown drink, and then there was another one. Didn't somebody try to rush him before this even too, or was it just the drink we had been talking
I
about?
think it was just the drink we were
Yeah,
talking
and
about.
I remember saying, like, they have to find new ways to work the crowd, and that means they're going to have to find things that they used to block off of TV as being too real. They started doing this 10-ish years ago where the refs started throwing up the X sign, but still showing the injury on TV. Yeah. That was bringing in stuff that used to mean real business. And then we were confused for a while, but that was just incorporating real business into the game. This planted person running out was evidence of that, and I still hold true to this drink thing being a work as well. But
I think it was just, honestly, the only reason I say it wasn't a work is I look at it as like the reaction he gave to it as being very natural.
But he's good at his job, dude.
He is.
That's his job.
I want to believe that it wasn't a work.
Yeah.
Because like that.
And that's what pro wrestling's done the best.
We're suspended.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the beauty of being a pro wrestling fan is you got, God, was that a work or did he really engage someone that enough where they're like, I'm going to fucking throw this $8 beer at this motherfucker right now. And if it wasn't a work, then you can't deny what MJF is doing. And Davison, you said before, he's got way more in-ring talent than we've been able to see because his wrestling has been very limited.
He's been a champion. He's been a head champion in most of the companies he's been in. He was CZW World. He was a couple-time title holder in MLW. I'm sure he's done all kinds of European stuff as well. But, yeah, he can wrestle his ass off. I think it's cool that he's just running his mouth right now. It'll be nice to slow roll it.
Yeah.
Maybe you get the idea that all he can do is talk, and then eventually he puts on a clinic, and you're like, whoa, there's a lot of substance to this, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm stoked to see how it plays out.
If dude just needs to do the promo to get over, there's no reason to put him in the ring when you can let somebody else have that spot and let their word shine. Yeah, I agree with that. I think they've handled him perfectly so far.
Yeah.
Well, another thing, people have, and you see this because it's that time of the year and they start bringing up the WWE Hall of Fame and who they're going to induct, and another one that's just flying all over the place once again is Chris Benoit.
Yeah, partially because his son's been coming out, talking interviews and what have you. And that's really brought it to the forefront.
Apparently his son is a champion right now.
That can't be the same guy. It can't be the same guy.
I saw a picture of him holding the title.
It was the same guy?
Yeah.
Was he in a ring or was he just holding up a title like a fan?
Somebody, I can't remember where I saw it, but they said with some faction or with some federation that he was their champion. Huh. But I don't know when that interview that we watched was shot because
that was new. That was just a couple weeks ago.
I was going to say, because he was talking like he just got back into the ring and he,
That's what, oh my God, was that, did you see that interview, by the way?
I saw clips of it,
Chris Van Vliet?
Yeah, a few things. I saw, like, he commented, no, we had people looking at Kevin Sullivan, it's not him.
Yeah.
Finally end that nonsense.
What'd you think of his charisma meter? How would he do in the ring?
Man, I'd have to see him work. I mean, Chris, at his best, just talking wasn't exactly, someone you would think, oh, this guy's, not gonna. I wouldn't pay money to see this guy. And then you see him in the ring, and like, oh man.
On Benoit's best day, I would give him a 6.5, 7 on the mic. Best day.
Yeah, fair. He hit a couple good lines. There was a way to kind of hide him right, where you could. I did not say hide him right. I said hide him right.
Run, Cole, run!
I watched No Mercy 2004 last night, so it's in my mind. Yeah, there's a way to hide him right where I think he could be very effective. Early 2000s, WWE, they did really well with him, I think.
Do you remember when Heyman was doing his promos and it was just him doing this? Rubbing his hands? Yeah. It's like, you're the crippler. You cripple. You crush people with your hands. We're just going to focus on you wringing your hands during the interview.
Right.
And it was painful because it was true. His first handful, he was like wearing I remember like a jean jacket with no shirt.
Yeah.
And he's talking, like looking into the camera. And he's still just like matting his hands like... It was so, okay, Chris, like you're doing what he told you to do, and this is indicative kind of your acting style at this point. But, the reason we brought this thing up in the first place, I was seeing parallels between this and Kobe's recent passing because it's been so polarizing.
Yeah.
Everybody recognizes that he was an absolute legend in basketball, and he was a giant cornerstone in his community, and I don't think a lot of people realize just how important he was to the community in LA and the black community there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us remember him being a rapist, flat out. He was
accused.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I believe exonerated.
Yeah, but I mean, Trump just got exonerated, so let's not go that way.
It was settled out of court, and he did offer an apology, but that she had gone through trauma. But
the legacy is floating. You know what I mean? So okay. That's honestly not. We can't go back and discover what happened and didn't, but. The conflict between Benoit's an amazing, even one of the top wrestlers ever, And people don't really want to talk about it because all they can think about is his last day. Some people think it's filthy. A lot of people in wrestling, it's so taboo, they won't even talk about him. Mm-hmm. You're disgusting. You're approving of his behavior. No, I'm not. He had CTE, he had other stuff happening. Who knows? But he was an excellent wrestler, and this other stuff doesn't erase it. Just like other stuff doesn't erase Kobe. Just like Jordan's gambling didn't erase his basketball. Just, you know what I mean?
O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, these things don't erase the other stuff. It doesn't mean you approve of the person per se. But when it comes to music and art, I am a person who says, like, I have a hard time separating music and, like, fine art from the creator because that's a direct expression. Athletics to me are a little bit different in that way. And then wrestling is a gray area between the two. So I don't know. It's a muddled kind of topic.
I think a lot of people process Benoit's legacy differently. Some people, I know people who are big Benoit fans who can't watch him anymore, and they just, you walk out on it.
Yeah.
Man, he was really good.
Oh my God.
My buddy John Paul is a major Chris Benoit fan.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest Chris Benoit fan I know, to the point where he still reps Chris Benoit, like on T-shirts he makes.
Oh, wow.
And he fucking loves Benoit. He will stick up for Benoit till the day he dies.
We never got into it, but he was hands down my favorite wrestler for many years too, because he was so brutal and the best worker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
so unlike anybody else. He's very he's like an animal. Like Randy Savage was like that too.
Yeah.
Where he was just like
a rabid Wolverine.
Yeah, like okay, they were on it. No, but he was so different. He clearly blurred that line. You could buy like what this cat's doing.
Yeah.
I think
so good.
I think Stone Cold actually he had kind of discussed this, and when I heard what he was talking about, I think it kind of sums it all up, at least for me. Because somebody had asked him, and he kind of came right out. He's like, all right, I'm just going to talk about this because everybody's wondering. And he's just sick of being asked. So when that question came up, do you think he's ever going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame? I don't think there's any really denying the impact that he had on professional wrestling or his skills, for that matter. And it was like Stone Cold basically came right out and said he's like one of the best wrestlers ever. He's like, he's possibly one of the best of all time.
I would argue he's one of the most influential.
And that's another thing he brought up too, is how many people draw inspiration from him as an in-ring performer. And he's like, when you look at all that, it's hard to argue that he's one of the best of all times.
Yeah, it's hard to look at a Danielson. It's hard to look at, Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
It's hard to look at a bruiserweight. It's hard to look at almost even like Taz. Like Taz was Taz, but any of those kind of like smaller stature, tough as nails, fire hydrant dudes.
Right.
I always see Benoit's fingerprints all, and of course Benoit ripped a lot of his style from Dynamite, and then, et cetera, et cetera. But in the modern era, I would say that he's absolutely one of the blueprints for the kind of stronger style, American style at this point.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate because as a person, like a lot of people will say a lot of good things, about who he was as a person. And I'm sure, it's very easy on one hand to go, yeah, but he killed his wife and his kid, and say he was a total piece of shit. And on the other hand, it's very easy to go, well, yeah, like the people who were around him and actually knew him, he was probably a great person. But, ultimately at the end of the day, what he did was unforgivable.
Of course.
And because he did that, you could never honor him.
Oh yeah, you could never WWE could never put him in the Hall of Fame.
No, and that.
They kicked out Hogan for crying out loud for
Did they kick him out of the Hall of Fame
for a short while when the Heat was on, and then people forgot. And
that's actually exactly what we said.
He made a nice apology tour, and then he slipped.
A bunch of years went by, and people forgot. We can bring him back now.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Probably, when we have these talks, and this is why I get into complicated conversations so much. Hype, we met once before. My job, I'm a mental health therapist. That's all I do. And so my job is to see past monstrosity and figure out why. And not even motivation, but what was the mental math that added up? Because, human beings are unique and we're not. If you take 10 people and you put them through, childhood domestic violence, and then later some substance abuse and whatever, I would be willing to guarantee you that 70% of those people wind up with certain antisocial tendencies. They wind up in certain kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
That's how your brain works. So when I see this kind of thing happen, I do start wondering, Okay, was there animosity? Well, there were some stories about animosity between he and Nancy. What about he and his kid? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
everybody who's ever talked, that kid would be in the locker rooms. Chris just doted on that kid. And, there's always stories of, like, some guy does something monstrous and his family will come forward and they're like, we don't care, this is our person. But there's been so many people saying the same thing and so much shock. I got to give some kind of credence to that, You don't have that level of shock without it being a giant leap from what your norm was. And so it is easier for me to compartmentalize that. And still, even with that ability, I'm still pretty conflicted about it.
Right. Because it's very sensitive, because at the end of the day, a child was murdered.
It's just like one of the ultimate taboos. It's hard to get around it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really hard because you can't, like I said, it's because of the fact that he's a murderer, you can't honor him. So again, unless, 50 years down the line, they do something where, who knows what his kid's going to do. I highly doubt he'll ever get on that level.
He's just not going to get a shake.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He could be really talented physically, but his charisma, there's something about him. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to get it. I mean, he could be the best order in the world. I just don't think they'd touch him. I don't think any major company would. Yeah. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he does, man. Like,
no doubt.
He's in a tough spot.
Oh, yeah, well, it's not his fault.
No,
and that's the shitty thing. Is that he's going to bear that burden.
Another victim of this whole tragedy is that he has to live with this and, want to be in an industry that his father has scorched the earth on.
I think it's, honestly, I think it's pretty admirable that he has, and I'm sure it's been conflicting for him, but he was nothing but a loyal son who appreciated his dad's good qualities in that whole interview. You know? And I doubt, because it's been a long time now, but I doubt that's always been his perspective. I bet he's gone through a lot to get to that point.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
But I was kind of touched by that. Here's another one. Speaking of moral relativism, has it been proven that Snuka killed somebody? Wasn't his girlfriend or wife somebody way back in the day, or was that alleged?
He was convicted in, not a criminal trial, but a civil trial he lost.
Yeah.
And didn't they find him guilty in the last few months or something?
It was towards the end of his life where they had convicted him again. They had pressed charges. They had found new evidence or something. And
is he in the Hall of Fame?
He was put in, and I think he's also one of those ones that have slipped out.
Got yanked because of that?
If you go on their website now, I'm not sure if he's there.
Yeah.
Okay. For a while, at least, he was out, I remember.
Right.
Being a story.
Yes, I mean, and then obviously one of my favorite, I'm always talking about New Jack, and we keep talking about all those bodies he had on him from, defense.
Yeah. People
get killed. Some people still like Snuka as an all-time great. He's still featured jumping off the cage at Madison Square Garden. I guarantee you, if you found some old rock and wrestling stuff, WWE probably hasn't gone back and erased them from the old cartoons. People still pay for New Jack. We all still watch his stuff. Benoit is off the charts because of his kid and wife. Now, please don't hear this as insensitive. This is me doing the compartmentalization thing right now. The woman Snuka killed was a human being. The 5 people New Jack killed, I mean, if you believe him, he was in the right. Benoit killed 2 people. Benoit is the one that is without discussion, and it's because of that taboo. And it's just really interesting how relative all of that stuff is, and how we glom onto one thing being so much worse than the other, when honestly it's kind of the exact same thing.
Well, and it's like, I think, and there's a George Carlin stand-up, and he's like, can somebody tell me the moral difference of going out and killing, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and then blowing up a hospital and killing a bunch of sick kids? He's like, there's no moral difference. Killing is killing. And I think ultimately in situations like this, somebody's going to take the fall. Somebody's got to take the fall, because it's just like the NFL. All the bullshit that goes on in the NFL, and then you'll take one guy who does something, morally shitty, and then we're going to make an example of this dude because we fucked up the 10 times before. It's like Hogan. He got caught on private tape saying the N-word a couple of times.
A couple hundred times.
He got removed. And then, he's back in the game. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did anybody ever remember that promo he did with Tony Atlas that's still on YouTube, where he says stuff that's way worse than just...
Oh, I don't know about this.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man.
I'm going to have to play this for you.
When was this? It was early 80s. It was before Hogan was Hulkamania.
Yeah.
It was back in his heel days.
He drops 3... Let's just say...
We're allowed to say this word. We can't say the N-word, obviously. he essentially calls him boy a bunch of times.
Oh, God.
He makes a couple of those other super condescending, deep Southern type comments. But here's the thing. Vince was doing the interview, and Vince was writing those lines back then.
Yeah.
So
he basically...
at the very least, he approves it and put it on TV.
At the very least, he put it on TV.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I'm not even going to tell you... because, I don't even want to tell you what he actually calls him. Oh, man. But even in the end, they're button chests. And he says, all you can do is shine my shoes. Oh, God. And it was like, wow, dude. It was
about
as transparent as Triple H's rundown of Booker T leading up to 19.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That wasn't racist.
Yeah.
Please.
There's some amazing stuff if you go back they put that Piper DVD maybe like 10, 15 years ago, somewhere in that range. Oh, yeah. And there's a promo where he's cutting on Mr. T, and it's like one of those things that I had roommates at the time who weren't into wrestling, and I just happened to have it on, and they're hanging around just kind of having dinner. And it was the line... oh,
no.
The jewelry.
The jewelry, right? Yeah, where he's like, I never get this Mr. T guy. We fought slavery all these years, and I think that's a great thing. First thing this guy does is throw a bunch of chains around his neck. And I was like, what the hell are you watching, man?
Oh, yeah.
Let's not forget that's the same guy that painted half his body black on his way to the ring.
He said, something just reminded me of this. He said during, WrestleMania 2, in the build-up to that in a promo, I'd never paint myself black, and I was like, he half lied.
Man.
That's funny. I tweeted that a long time ago. He half lied. Somebody reminded me of that tweet the other day. I was like, oh man, that's hilarious.
That's not a bad tweet. Yeah.
Yeah. When you again, and I guess maybe it was just because of the '80s, and that stuff was very tongue in cheek at the time, where they were like, where not that it's ever been okay to talk about, but it just shows you how insensitive
and more socially accepted, we've come a long way.
Right, exactly.
Which is good. But
it's where you could say something like that, and they'd be like, "How dare you? We hate you," rather than literally going, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah,
it's like this false sense of anger. Right. It wasn't really paying attention to what was really being said, and. Again, I think, like I said, it goes back to that where it's like, okay, we're going to punish this guy. We're going to make an example of him. And, time's passed. It's okay. Yeah. It's like, whatever.
I just wish people knew how to use a more critical lens when watching these things. We got the overt. So we got Piper making slavery statements. We got him painting his body black. Crime Time is absolutely racist. Just by name. Crime Time.
Right.
You got black guys, they have to be criminals. Come on. You got, what's his name, R-Truth running around. It's not racist necessarily, but has he ever been anything but just big-time comedy relief?
Oh, yeah.
There are all of these... Quick. Yeah, there are all these little shades of it always happening, but...
Well, they were serious with him for a while there.
But when he smoked that cigarette do you remember that when he was the heel and he took a cigarette from a guy in the front row and immediately
I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all.
That's when he and Miz started their little tag team for a while.
Yeah, it was where they were actually trying with it. Because it was the little Jimmy stuff turning back babyface, and it was supposed to be like a mock of the crowd, then it became his imaginary kid. Or
whatever. And then it was cute that he had a that's right.
They tried with him for a little bit there, but it was always that thing where he was in Milwaukee and hello Green Bay, and they just turned on him. It's unfortunate. He's made a good run from that.
Yeah.
Dumb line.
Mark, do you know the spot I'm talking about?
No, I have never seen it.
It was so funny. Just like I said, it was funny watching the Jarrett Cruz AEW show because Friedman, MJF, was walking around. He grabbed a guy's hat from the front row and he just chucked it. And I remember that catch me off guard because I was like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to do that. And I was like, oh, it's MJF. It's different. That little thing caught me off guard. This match with Truth, he heel turned during this match, and the way he punctuated it was he was laying at ringside by the ring barrier, and a guy in the front row was either smoking or had a cigarette. He took it from him and had him light it, and he sat there at ringside smoking a cigarette. And for some reason, that was wow, that's really somehow that was dastardly. That's not supposed to be happening. Yeah. I heard he got a lot of trouble after the fact.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
But sometimes just those weird little details like that, it's wow, that was way out of line.
Yeah.
It was a cigarette.
Right. He was smoking.
You're
going to set a bad example for kids. Now
there's building regulations and all kinds of nonsense that you probably got.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Your kids are in a building watching violence on purpose. Don't you dare smoke in front of them.
Right. We don't mind them growing up being violent as long as they're not smoking, because that's bad for your health.
That's bad for your body. Forget pile drivers and suplexes. Them cigarettes will get you.
Well, now it's time for a brand new segment, boys and girls. And now it's time for Pro Wrestling Deep Cut Storytime with Davison Sarai.
Okay.
Love it.
Can you imagine, picture it, WCW, circa 1991 or 1992. The performers were stressed beyond belief. The company was ailing. WWE was killing them, both on TV ratings and with money.
Yeah.
They needed to put people to work. So they piled everybody into a plane to send them to Europe. Took about an 8-hour flight, and they landed in the middle of Germany. They piled directly from the airplane onto a bus. They rode another 3 or 4 hours into the heart of kind of central Germany, rural Germany. Some of the people involved, I watched a ton of shoot interviews to get the story together.
Okay.
We're all saying, it was interesting because we took this long-ass 8-hour flight. We thought when we got there we'd get into a hotel and sleep, but instead we got in a bus. We then rode another 3-4 hours on the bus, which makes 11 or 12 hours of travel. We still didn't get to a hotel. They took us right to the show. We go and we wrestle. 3-4 more hours of the show. We get back on the bus. 3 or 4 more hours of driving deeper into Germany. We finally reached the hotel. We're talking, I don't know, 13, 14 hours now.
Yeah.
According to everybody involved, that flight over was either private or they had predominantly filled up the plane with their guys. And everybody says the whole time, drinking and drugging. They land, they get in the bus, drinking, drugging. They get to the show. When you're not wrestling, probably drinking, drugging. You get out, you get back on the bus. Guess what else is happening? You drink until all the beer is gone from this bus now. Get to the hotel after all these hours awake. We're crabby, we're sore, we're pissed, we're wasted. We get into this fancy hotel, which is somehow a 5-star. And I don't know if it's a weird time of year or if they're like in some weird part of Germany, but a couple people involved in this story swear that it was almost empty and essentially they have the run of the place. Now again, picture 91 and 92 and what wrestling looked like. Imagine all of this time flying through and taking all these guys who are just absolutely wasted and zooted, putting them in this place together and just letting them run rampant. Like, it must have been insane.
Right.
So, here's where it starts. According to Van Vader, they get to the hotel, and Steve Austin, prior to leaving to go to ECW, somehow charmed the people of the motel into opening the bar. This now leads to hours more drinking among everybody.
Oh my God.
It just keeps pressurizing. Enter Psycho Sid Vicious. He'd had a pretty decent run, I think, with WWE at this point, and apparently he'd gotten pretty big in his britches. He thought he knew a lot of things about a lot of things. I think most people who know about wrestling know that he didn't know a lot about wrestling. He knew about lifting weights and saying, I need another take on live camera. Breaking one leg, jumping off the ropes. What he doesn't know is how to fucking wrestle. So, the discussion has started amongst all these drunkards. Why is our company ailing? Why aren't we making more money? And people are throwing around some theories. At one end of the table is Arn Anderson, who's sitting with Ric Flair, and they're talking about their theories and how they've been drawing money as the Horsemen. At the other end of the table, Psycho Sid says something to the effect of, and he can be quoted on a High Spots interview. I essentially said the reason we're not making money is because we got an old motherfucker at the top, meaning Ric Flair, and he needs to get the fuck out of the way so the rest of us can do something. Early 90s WCW. Now, I don't hear that Flair said much of anything, but his enforcer did. Arn Anderson, the man who is the muscle of the Horsemen. He felt it was necessary to stick up for the honor of the Horsemen and for Flair. Apparently, at some point during their little discussion, he throws a beer across the table into Sid's face.
Oh, shit.
Different people say that he might have thrown a bottle or a glass. Nobody argues with the fact that as soon as that splash hits him in the face, Psycho Sid then throws his own drink across, and now we got ourselves a 7th grade food fight.
Oh, shit.
Managers of the hotel come in. Road agents come in. All right, idiots, you ruined everything. Go to bed. We're shutting it down. The only two people really physically getting into it at this point are Arn and Sid.
Right.
Have either of you heard this story?
No.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I know the. Yeah,
I'm so happy right now.
I know you're going for a while. Yeah.
Oh, God. So, they're going to go to their rooms and separate. Here's the problem. Sid and Arn's rooms were in the same hallway.
Oh, shit.
And apparently only about 4 or 5 doors apart. So in their attempts to split up the fight, what they actually did was send them into the heart of the hotel without supervision, heading the exact same direction. Apparently Arn was still carrying some beer, because why not? And Sid is still poking at him, and not just verbally anymore, but now they're kind of tussling. And if you don't know, I know Sid was somewhere around, 6'6"?
Yeah.
6'7", 300
Yeah, he's pretty
some
tall,
pounds.
6'5" or so.
Arn was probably realistically around 210, 220, I don't know, 5'10", 5'11"?
Probably.
Was he that tall?
I think he's in 6 footer.
Oh, okay.
I believe so.
All right, so we got a maybe 100-pound differential here. Definitely a muscular differential here.
I think Sid was like 6'8".
Yeah.
Legit, probably right around 6'7", 6'8". He was a big dude.
Yeah.
They're a big dude.
So if I'm in Arn Anderson's brain and I got this guy coming at me, I'm thinking to myself, I should probably have something. He takes the beer bottle and he breaks it somewhere. So now he's holding a broken bottle in his hand. He's trying to wield it at Sid to keep him away, right? Now I need to take a quick sidestep here. During my research into the story, as I told you, I found many, many witnesses. This is one really important piece of information. Do either of you remember Colonel Parker?
Yeah.
He was the manager at the time.
Yes.
At this time, he was working with Sid. He did not make the trip to Europe for whatever reason. But he says in his interview, Sid was concerned, because of course he was on steroids,
Yeah.
and Parker was very open about it. Sid was afraid he wouldn't be able to get his steroids through customs, and he wasn't going to go without steroids for a couple of weeks. Apparently he injected himself with as many as he could in the hopes that it would somehow dissipate over time.
Oh my God.
If Sid wasn't already crazy enough,
Science Sid Vicious. That's
now he's up to his temples in rage juice. So now, take that information, and now listen to this. According to Sid, we're walking along, and yeah, I said the thing. I insulted Flair, because, whatever. And we're going, and we're fighting, and Arn's like some kind of maniac. He breaks the bottle, and he's wielding a knife at me. I'm not going to get stabbed with that thing. So I grab a chair, whatever, in the hallway, I don't know, breaks it. Now he's holding a broken piece of wood from the chair. He's got himself a club. They're standing off in the hallway, drunk as can be from 15 hours of travel and pills and drugs and a gallon of steroids. Somehow, some order is brought about. Arn goes into his room. Sid remembers he didn't grab his food.
Oh my God.
He heads back down. He grabs his food. He comes back. And now this is one of the funniest details to me. Sid, I'm walking through. I got my food. And, I walk by and I'm thinking to myself still, I'm mad at Arn. He brought a knife on me, whatever. I'm looking to kick his ass. When I'm walking by, his bedroom door is closed. And I'm like, no way. So I go up to his door and I knock and I yell, hey, motherfucker, get out here with your little knife. Let's see what happens. He then hears some rumbling and fumbling and tumbling inside the room. How does that go, Mark?
Rumbling, stumbling, fumbling.
There it is. Thank you. And thinks to himself, he must be wasted in there. Oh, wait. I'm wasted. He looks down in his hand. He's still holding this broken piece of wood. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but imagine it. He had walked down to the fucking restaurant carrying a piece of broken chair that belongs to the hotel, walks back carrying his food and a broken piece of chair. He finally realizes, whoop, I'm out of line. He says he threw the piece of wood across the hall. Now, have either of the two of you ever watched a movie where either a person has just gone into prison and they ask the wrong guy, what are you in for? That guy always responds by leaning in kind of quiet, narrows his eyes, and he's like, you don't ask that around here, right? Kind of similar to that. If you watch people who are, accused of a crime, and then people say, well, what about it? They'll sometimes lean in quiet and go like, well, if you check the legal records, there was no proof, there was no fingerprints, there was no nothing.
Yeah.
At this point in the interview, Sid says, I realized what was happening. I realized I was wasted. I threw the piece of wood. He leans in quiet and he goes, now you can check the reports. There was never any blood found on that thing. There was no dents in it from anybody's heads. There was no proof that I attacked Arn Anderson with that piece of wood. So next thing I know, the door opens and I'm standing there without a weapon, and Arn is holding a pair of scissors.
Holy shit.
He says, Arn came at me so fast, and I'm like, whoa, I'm trying to squash this. Arn came at me, and I just backed up, and I bumped into the wall with nowhere to go. Arn came towards me, and he punches me in the stomach, punches me in the chest. I'm punching him back. You know, we're tussling. I hit Arn so hard he falls down. And then I see the scissors fall. They didn't fall out of Arn's hand. They fell after Arn had fallen. They fell out of Sid's stomach.
Oh, my God.
Arn had shanked his ass.
Jesus.
And then Sid realized he had a bunch of stab wounds in his face.
Good Lord.
Now we're going to shift gears. Here's my favorite part of the story, and I think I have a new favorite wrestler. Too Cold Scorpio is the one constant throughout all of these stories. According to Too Cold Scorpio, all these other details hold up. When it cuts to him, he's like, okay. So all these guys start fighting in the motel bar. They get split up. They get sent up to the room. I went to my room immediately because I had smoking hash. And he says, I was smoking big hash, and I scraped all the paint off a Coke can. I'm in my room just living it up, smoking hash. I hear a bunch of noise. And Mark, you're going to love this. And my first thought is, that motherfucker Vader's out there starting shit with people again. So I leave my room to go tell him to shut up. And instead I hear him snoring in the room. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not Vader. And I still hear all this noise. And then I see blood. I see blood on the carpet. I see blood on the walls. There's blood on the left. There's blood on the right.
Right.
I'm following the blood down the hall.
My God.
I turn the corner, and I see Sid holding Arn Anderson by the back of his hair. And he's just kicking him in the stomach. He's trying to kick him in his face. And with his other hand, he's holding a pair of scissors. And he's just stabbing him. Stabbing him here, stabbing him there, stabbing him everywhere you can stab him. And I said, damn! And then I see Sid, he's not just kicking him, he kicks him right in his face. And Arn's nose does a 180, points right up the ceiling, starts bleeding. And I said, damn! And so then I rush in, and I'm like, I can't watch this happen.
Yeah.
Pause again. He says he rushed in, and he was only wearing a towel, right?
Yeah.
This makes me think to myself, you're in your room, you're smoking hash out of a Coke can. Why are you either sitting around naked in a towel, or did you just shower? Or why are you wet? Why are you walking around half naked?
Right.
We're in the middle of Germany in the early 90s. I've met Germans who absolutely despise the Nazi history, obviously.
Yeah.
But you know there's people in the middle of that place, deep woods, who still believe that shit. So now I'm thinking to myself, these guys are stabbing each other. Too Cold may have been the most endangered person in this entire situation.
No doubt.
So he says he gets between the two. He pushes them apart. Shift gears. Now we got Vader. Apparently Vader this whole time had been walking around the hotel in a pair of shoes with no socks.
Oh my God.
A big ass pair of white boxer shorts and nothing else. 400-pound Vader is walking around naked.
Right.
He says he's over by the elevators, and he says, I look around the corner, and I see Sid walking towards me. He's doing the Frankenstein walk. Have either of you two ever seen Grandma's Boy, that movie?
Yes.
Do you remember the Frankenstein when they smoked that weed and it made
Yes.
him walk around like that? So I had to pause the thing at this point because I'm dying, because that's all I thought about was the weed and smoking, walking around like Frankenstein. So he's walking around like Frankenstein. And then I saw this blood all over him. Apparently Sid was wearing white, which is also funny. Sid said later I was wearing all white, which made me think of what was that guy's? What was Dan Spivey's thing?
Waylon Mercy.
Waylon Mercy. That's immediately what I thought of. So now we got a dude in all white walking towards us, just pumping blood out in every direction. Vader says, "Oh yeah. We got to chill you out. We got to sit you down." But he rips his shirt up to see what happened, and he says, "I see a hole in his stomach about the size of my thumb."
Good Lord.
And then he clarifies and says, maybe a nickel or a dime size. Vader is a huge dude. I got to think his thumb's the size of a potato.
Oh, yeah. I would imagine.
At least. I bring that up because he says, I was in such a panic because that hole was big. And when his heart pumped, it wasn't just trickling. There was a spurt of blood shooting out with every heartbeat.
Holy shit.
And he said it was, a nickel size. So there was a lot coming out. And with every heart pump, it was less coming out. And we both realized, you're dying. You're going to die.
Yeah.
He pushed him back into a chair, and the only thing he could think to do was put his thumb in the hole.
Oh, my God. What the fuck is going on?
Everything's going on.
Oh.
So he says he puts his thumb right at the surface of the hole. Bleeding kind of starts to stop. And then he says, hold on, Sid. And then he pushes it into the hole.
Oh.
Do either of you happen to know how thick your entire epidermis is? It's between an eighth and a quarter of an inch. Okay. Yeah. We got a potato-thumbed motherfucker in a sockless shoes and giant white boxer shorts, sticking a potato-sized thumb into a nickel-sized hole in a man's stomach. Cut back to Sid Vicious.
Wow.
An interviewer asks him, was it true that he stuck his thumb in your stomach? And Sid essentially says, you know what? I don't know, maybe. I don't really remember. Yeah, probably.
Which is probably the response for 16 hours of heavy drinking.
You know? And
knife fighting.
an incredible blood loss and massive trauma.
Oh, my God.
So now we got, this man over here holding the thumb in his stomach hole to keep him alive. Do either of you remember Bill Dundee?
Yeah.
From old AWA fame.
Yes, yeah.
They bring him in for a couple little details. Now, I want you to know, this guy in his shoot interview was as wasted as any human being I've ever seen.
You might want to watch his son's shoot interview to see him topped.
I will absolutely do that. Ooh. He didn't really add too many new details to this, but he really wanted to focus on the fact that he walked past Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat's shared hotel room, and he knew they were awake when all this fighting was going on, and all he wanted to contribute to the story was that Flair and Steamboat are both punk-ass bitches and bitch-ass motherfuckers. That's the end of his input.
Oh, my God.
Somewhere in the other end of the hotel, we've got a hashed-out, half-naked, wet, too-cold Scorpio tending to all these stab holes in Arn Anderson. Now, a majority of my research time last night was dedicated to 5 different too-cold videos. He changed every detail and every single telling of the story.
Oh, my God.
The flight went from 5 hours to 10 hours to 7 hours. The bus ride was 10 hours to 2 hours. The holes in Arn Anderson's body went from 127 to 30. He says he stood up, blood was squirting out of his body in every direction, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we're wrapping up. The two of them finally get into some ambulances, ship them off to the hospital. Sid Vicious needed to get exploratory surgery. Apparently, Arn's stabs were all pretty superficial.
Yeah.
That one to the gut had got him good, and it may have gotten his intestines, could have got his stomach, who knows. So they do real surgery on him. He wakes up in the morning, he's all stitched up. The German police are there. They say, this was almost a murder case. You need to press charges. You're going to die when I say this next thing. Sid says, I don't really want to press charges. Arn's the last person in the world I want to harm.
Oh, my God. What the fuck? That makes about just as much sense as his promos.
Wow. He's the last guy in the world I want to harm.
Oh,
my
God.
And anyway, it was mutual. The cops say, that other guy didn't have a mark on him. He's like, what? They go, yeah, you're the one who got stabbed. That other guy didn't have any harm. Sid's like, well, then fuck that guy. Yeah, press charges. He lays in bed, whatever. Later at night, a nurse comes in. How are you? I'm doing okay. She says, your friend's not doing okay. What do you mean? That guy that came in with you, he's in bad shape. And Sid's like, oh, cool. These German police tried to trick me into getting this guy in jail because they need to close this case, right?
Yeah.
Sid gets out of his hospital bed, shambles down the hall. He finds Arn Anderson's room, knocks on the door and lets himself in. Arn looks up. Hey, Sid. Hey, Arn. How you doing? Not so great. Why are you here? Sid says, are you serious? From last night. Arn says, I was wasted. I don't remember anything.
Oh, my God.
And that is professional wrestling.
That is fucking story time with Davison.
What that
Holy
tells
shit.
me is don't drink to blackout with Arn Anderson. Blacked out Arn Anderson will broken bottle knife fight you. And not even remember.
Wow.
That brings me a whole new level of respect for Arn, man. It really does.
Yeah. Wow. That's insane.
Yeah. It's like, I just think about all those crazy ass Sid interviews. Like, he was always super intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was also, there's always a question of, like, how much was going on upstairs with him.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, I don't know. I just think about him all juiced up. But here's the funny thing, too. Have either of you heard the squeegee incident?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So, apparently...
That took place before, though, didn't it?
I think so.
That was the prequel to this. This tale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that involved Pillman, who's one of your favorites.
Right, exactly.
So he already had a history of starting shit with people and then handling it in really bizarre ways.
Yeah.
Right.
And to me, this just absolutely was the cherry on Sunday. So
That's insane.
Sid had always found him as a dude that didn't get in many fights because you look at the guy and he looks like a Frankenstein.
I don't want to fight you.
He had maybe the best look ever in pro wrestling. He looked.
Oh, he was
when you
killed.
Oh yeah, he was great.
I always reference one of my favorite pay-per-views in all time, and I still feel is the best Royal Rumble is '93 when Ric Flair won the vacant heavyweight title.
92.
Oh yeah,
I'm a big Royal Rumble nerd.
Right. 92. Because you look at Sid, who was Sid Justice at the time,
Yes.
and he was freaking stacked.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the favorites going in, and at the time he was a fan favorite until him and Hogan got into it, and then obviously he turned heel naturally going up against Hogan. But yeah, he was one of the top guys who was considered like, and it's funny like when you look back on that time and you're like, the fuck is Sid Justice? But like at the time he could have been number one contender. He could have been the world champion.
He was always like, I was a kid then, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, he was the guy. He was Luger for a while, was going to be the guy, and then Sid was going to be the guy, and then Vader was going to be the guy, and it was always Hogan, though.
Right, absolutely.
But yeah, Sid was the guy everyone assumed was going to be amazing, and he just didn't have it in the ring, really.
Yeah.
I think Sid may have been the only saving grace of that Shockmaster spot.
Oh my
He
God.
never he was the one still screaming and still mad, trying to keep that thing going.
Yeah.
That was really funny to me. Do you know? It's interesting. I remember being really, really young, and I was really into NWA back at that time, and that's when Sid debuted in a tag team with Danny Spivey.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember that?
Skyscrapers.
Skyscrapers. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then I think Spivey left, and that's when Sid left. Mark Callis joined. That was the Undertaker's first kind of big gig. So yeah, there's a lot of really.
If you remember their very last match, well, they came back like a year or two later, but Spivey got injured before their last match, and they threw somebody else in, didn't they? Or am I imagining this now?
No, I can't remember.
There was a mass skyscraper who was like I forgot, somebody too. Darn it.
It was probably Isaac Yankum. He had a couple jobs on the side.
I think he was the Christmas creature around then.
Oh God! Oh, that was him.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yikes!
Fighting Christmas trees.
Well, speaking of promotions, there's a bunch of shows going down this weekend. You're booked. You were at High Stakes Independence Pro Wrestling last month, but you were booked in with another promotion for tonight, correct?
Correct. Yep. I'm really bummed I'm going to miss IPW Valor because it's going to be a hell of a show. We can talk about that in a minute, but I'm going to be actually in East Jordan, Michigan. Lovely 4-hour drive from good old Kalamazoo, but East Jordan, Michigan, MCPW Mr. Chainsaw Pro Wrestling.
Okay.
Their 13th anniversary show. 13 years they've been in business. They have over the years. Mick Foley's been there. Scott Hall was there a couple years ago. Goldust was in. Before they were famous, Seth Rollins and Tyler Black was the champion. Josh Raymond actually was one of the early champions. Jimmy Jacobs, man, they've like a lot of people have come through the doors of MCPW. It's
wild.
Phenomenal promotion, man. I recommend. They're available on Independent Pro Wrestling TV.
How are their turnouts up there? It's about Kalkaska, right?
Yeah, really, in the middle of nowhere, you'd think it'd be rough. Kalkaska, they did 500 for the last anniversary show in Kalkaska.
See, this is why we talk music. My best shows were always in areas where there's nothing else to do. That's why everybody comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, the promoters, they do a good gig. They really get the word out up there, and there's not a lot going on up there, so the folks come out. They put on great shows, man. Everyone, a lot of regulars. You see a lot of the same folks, and it's a blast. It's some of my favorite shows they do.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I'm excited. So much as I'm going to miss IPW, I'm looking forward to MCPW. It's a stacked show too, man. They really did.
Oh yeah.
They had Jamal King as the champion.
Nice.
He is wrestling Jeff King, so there's going to be some regicide on the show.
Oh yeah.
That's been my big
gotta see who's the true royalty there.
That's going to be phenomenal. No holds barred, so that could favor Jeff King.
And sorry not to interrupt.
Yeah,
isn't there word that Jeff King's going to be making his way to IPW?
I don't believe he'll be there tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, but in the future.
He should
I've
be
been
back.
seeing
Yes,
some
he was
promos.
there in November. I know he wrestled Madman Pondo a few months ago.
Yeah.
Beat him actually. Beat Madman.
Sorry, I should elaborate on the King, Jamal King.
Jamal King, yes, I hope so. He's a phenomenal wrestler, man.
Okay.
I've never been in the ring with him, but I love watching his stuff.
Yeah.
They love him up there in East Jordan. He's been the champion for about 6 months now.
Okay.
And good luck to Jeff King. It's gonna be tough to dethrone him. Jeff King blowing up out there, man.
Yeah.
Just debuting for GCW out there in Philadelphia. He's doing some good stuff. So that's gonna be a hell of a match. We got Alley Cat. Have you guys seen Alley Cat ever? She's phenomenal. She's a cat. So she can be distracted by rubbing her belly.
Oh yeah,
shiny objects. She's phenomenal. She's returning up there.
That sounds like it exposes the business.
Oh man, Jim Cornette would love it.
That sounds awesome.
He would be a real bad kitty. But she's wrestling Atticus Cougar, making his debut up there.
Okay.
We got Dickie Watts, my tag team partner up there. He's in singles action against the virtuous vegan Ashton Waganda.
Oh yeah.
Another rival of mine. So I'm saying good luck to Dickie out there.
Do you have a problem with vegans? Are you like real pro meat or what?
I like meat. I don't like Ashton Waganda. So on that basis, I have an issue with vegans. But they actually just did previous show. They actually did a vegan death match up there with Jeff King team with Schlack against Ashton Waganda and his partner No Good Neil. And they did you've seen the nails on the board, you know?
Yeah.
They did a carrot board. So somebody got backdropped
That's
to the carrots.
brutal.
They had not like a soda thing. I'm not vegan, so I don't know this.
Seltzer?
Yes, they had cans broken up into the cans. They were squirting it with lemon juice.
See, I thought you were going to say the loser has to eat a piece of salami or something.
Oh yeah, well they did show he did force feed Ashton a hot dog.
Oh man, that's rough.
That's just brutal.
Schlack is a fucking beast.
That's not
He's a monster. Yeah, it's the first time meeting him, and he brought it. People up. It's one of those things where in the middle of nowhere, you wouldn't think all these cats would be up on stuff like GCW and Schlack. But man, they came out. They had signs. They were ready. It's that independent pro wrestling TV is really getting a lot of people out there, and it's been fun.
That's sweet.
Big fan.
I didn't know they were on there.
Yep. MCPW's on there.
Mark, do you know about that?
Yeah, who told me about that? I think it was Josh Raymond.
It's like $10 a month, I think, for a
it's
subscription.
phenomenal,
right?
yeah. And you get just all kinds of stuff.
Countless indies.
I checked it out, and I worked for IWA Mid-South back in like the mid-2000s, and it was all these matches of mine I'd never seen. So if you're a fan of watching matches of mine that I've never seen, I recommend it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I'm going to need a directory.
You know what's on there? Is anyone remember showing the break this up for a second, the Break the Barrier in like 2000 or 2001, I think it was, in the ECW arena. So it was the first show after ECW and WCW had folded. It was the new big, it was what they wanted to be Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor ended up popping up later, but it was the big, all the top indie guys all doing like one big giant show.
Was Punk there?
Is that when CZW was starting
Punk.
up, or is that
Okay.
different? CZW, I think, moved into the bingo hall eventually. But
I think they took it over. They probably had a match on there, but it was one of the things where all the top indies all sent a match. And it was,
cool.
There's good stuff on there, but it was a really clunky show. They have that on there, and I'd never seen it, so I was really pumped. And I was a tape trader back in the day, and never could get a copy of that. So
Okay.
but yeah, that's a cool service, man. I really do recommend that.
Sweet.
Speaking of which, their Independent Pro Wrestling TV title is actually on the line. We got a Warhorse is going to be there taking on Tommy Vendetta.
Okay, yeah,
who
from
does
DTA.
also appear in IPW, yeah, from the Death Threat Army.
Yep.
Their title's on the line, so DTA could be taking some big hardware there.
I was
Nice.
super impressed with Death Threat. I mean, the whole show was fun last month.
Yeah.
Those guys really stood out to me as being like really fun, really charismatic, really like.
When those guys combine, when their powers combine, they can really run roughshod over promotion. So it's fun seeing. We haven't crossed ways in IPW yet. I feel bad for them if we do. Damn it, but
Yeah, they will rue the day.
yeah.
It takes 3.5 of them to add up to one hype.
Yeah, believe it. Tag title match. They got Jackerville, Conrad Laux against Dre Jacobs and TJ Meyer. My good buddy Max Morrison's returning up there, taking on No Good Neil, who is no good.
God, I love that name. Mark, what was your brother's name in your Fed again?
Storm.
No. What was the nice ass? Alan?
Nice ass Alan Frankhouse. and he literally just came out to Billy Gunn's music, and he would just shake his ass, and here's his older brother, like he's got a nice ass, like,
Nice ass Alan.
Yeah, we were weird.
No good Neil. That'd be a perfect tag team. Can you imagine?
No Good Neil actually evolved from Mr. Nifty. He was Nifty No More, became No Good Neil. And
He's got a great name game.
Yes, he does.
I love that.
He's an ugly guy too. and then of course the main event in everyone's books is the Hype Jimmy Shaw. I'm going to be taking on a guy named Dan the Dad.
Oh yeah, Dan the Dad.
Dan the Dad. He's we've gone back and forth on Twitter a little bit, shooting some videos at each other, and he's threatened to spank my butt with his belt.
Oh,
damn!
I ain't getting spanked. I'm too damn old.
That sounds more like daddy business than dad.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn the thermostat down on Dan the Dad. That's my plan. But it's
Right.
his debut, and I'm hoping you spoil that.
It's 2020 hype. Never say never.
Right.
I've disappointed a father all my life. Believe me. At this point, one more dad is not going to be a problem. But yeah, we've been going back and forth on Twitter. We got a couple videos up. My cat is in a bow tie in one of them. And I'm explaining the art of war, standing over a bunch of GI Joes.
Nice.
So if that sounds interesting, I'll check out my Twitter at Hype Shalwin. I hope that's my Twitter.
I like your style.
I never at myself.
That would be
at Hype Shalwin. I got it right.
That would be HYPESHALWAN.
WIN. Because I shall win.
Indeed.
Shall win.
But yeah, it's going to be a hell of a show, man. It's at the East Jordan Civic Center tomorrow night at 6 o'clock bell time. So nice and early. Weather's looking good tomorrow, too.
Yeah.
If you want to drive 4 hours. But if you don't want to drive 4 hours.
Or if you're in the area and you're just listening to this, whatever's closer. Saturday night is a good night for wrestling. You get the next day to recover before you got to get back to the work week. Yeah, that's a big card. And hopefully we'll see you in IPW again next month.
I will be back in March. Yeah, that's cool. That's definitely. But yeah, if you do want to stay and check out IPW, I'm legitimately bothered that I'm not going to make the show. You can check out MCPW online on Independent Wrestling TV. Hit them up at MCPW online. A lot of good stuff, man. A lot of crazy talent you don't see a lot in Michigan popping up there.
Yeah. That's again, and that's one thing I even am trying to urge other people, because I was on that other side of the spectrum too, where it was like, dude, there's a lot of talent out there. Just because it's not being shoved down your throat doesn't mean it's not there. Mm-hmm. And that's especially going to the first IPW event. I was like, there's a lot of really good wrestlers here, and the whole show was entertaining. Yeah. Everybody who was on that card was entertaining.
Top to bottom, great shows.
Yeah, it was fantastic. That's another reason I was so excited too, because again, people who are just so used to WWE, again, they're cheating themselves out of some great wrestling. And here's the thing, WWE booked a show in Kalamazoo and then they bailed on us.
Yeah.
Here's a company that's based in Kalamazoo that's doing monthly shows, and with continued support will hopefully eventually become more than a monthly show. Yeah. Maybe even dabbling into bi-weekly, which would be huge.
Phenomenal, yeah.
Going back to what you said about the whole daddy thing, that was the one big thing Karam had expressed to the Death Threat Army last time, because he had returned from injury and he had turned on Death Threat Army at High Stakes as a part of the team, and they were freaking stacked, and he's one of the larger dudes in the group.
Yeah, they might be stacked, but he's really stacked.
Yeah, and he he challenged IPW champion Jack Price to a world title match, and he's got the IPW championship match tonight. As the main event, and I know Aaron Orion is going to be putting his Michiana title on the line as well. I'm not sure who he's going up against.
He's actually taking on Zach Ibiza.
Oh, really?
Top students, a young guy in there. I think it's his first title match, actually. First big opportunity out there.
Cool. That's interesting.
Was he on the last show or no?
Yes. Yeah, he beat Keith Cream.
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
In the opening card.
Match, yeah.
Oh, the really muscular.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And so Zach Ibiza, he recently came back from injury late last year. So I know that's going to be an interesting match. And
Bill's only had about, I think, 17, 18 matches at this point, so he's young and he's out there, man. He's going to go for it.
Well, and that's another thing too. Like you said, Tommy Vendetta, he's not going to be there. So, you got the cards stacked short for Death Threat Army. Mm-hmm. Who knows, if they're going to be fully squatted up, and if not, that's again a disadvantage towards Aaron Orion, but he's a consummate champion, and that's going to be a sweet match. I know Josh Raymond taking on Isaiah Bronner as well, right?
I think there's only 3 Death Threat Army members in attendance. I'm not sure. You never know, man. The numbers go deep.
Right.
But yeah, those are the 3 on the card that I was aware of.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Josh Raymond, man. One of the best, like just one of the most underrated cats in wrestling. Like that dude should be on TV somewhere. As good as he is.
My mind blew up when he came in. It was actually kind of funny. Obviously, I've heard of Josh Abercrombie for years and years and years. I didn't make the connection.
Yeah.
So he sat here and talked, and the more he talked about where he'd been, I'm like, Ring of Honor? Wrestling Society X? What the hell is going on?
Right.
And then he finally said it, and I was like, oh my God. And he didn't seem super thrilled. He's like, you should have checked my wiki. I'm like, come on, dude. I don't fucking know. Hype, I got a quick question. It's not specific to your show, but I'm a fan of independent music and wrestling because I really like seeing the inception of a career and being able to cheer for my people as they develop and watching that happen. Mm-hmm. You've been on the indies for a very long time.
Yes.
You wrestle people with a ton of experience. Like you just said, this guy's only got 15 matches. Mm-hmm. There's certain people. What do you think how does it make you feel to see people and have that kind of mix? Like, I know you're still a huge fan.
Yeah.
But like, what does that mean to be part of that with the new people, the old people learning from each other? Like,
I like it, man. I like pro wrestling. I just had a discussion last night with a friend of mine about who helped you in wrestling, and it was very different. Because now you get a lot of guys like, I'll watch matches if anyone asks me to, I'll give my advice, or even if I just see a thing like, hey man, like, you might want to try this, and I tell them I'm not always right. I'm no genius. You guys know Mance Warner? His big thing in the independents right now is MLW.
Say Lance Warner?
Mance Warner. He's blown up. He's going to be a big thing. I saw him. I wrestled him. Maybe it's like one of his first dozen matches. I'm not sure when. Liked him. Thought he had talent. I told him, like, I don't like the gear. He kind of really generic singlet.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I've seen this dude before. Okay.
I don't like to say. I would say do something with your look, and he's like, oh, I really am going for something. I go, okay, man, good luck. I hope you do prove me wrong. I don't mean that sarcastic. A lot of guys are sarcastic about that. And the dude went and proved me wrong because he's blowing up. He's getting booked all over. He's wrestled LA Park. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's on MLW, doing all kinds of stuff there.
He's still doing the same gimmick though.
Yeah, he's tweaked it a bit. He found his voice with it, and he's done great. And I'm glad the dude proved me wrong. I'm a failure.
See,
I never made the big time, man. I just do this and have fun and enjoy getting the crowd up and on their feet. I enjoy having a good time and having other people. Watching
can
the
I
show.
pay you what I consider to be a big compliment?
Please, yes, I love to be complimented.
And I don't just do this. Good. Well, I got heavy Colt Cabana vibes from watching you wrestle.
I do. I tend to be the comedy guy. I like that. I tend to find what nobody else is doing on the show and try to like move into that direction.
Yeah.
And especially just being older, it's easier to kind of fall into that.
And the crowd gels with it. The crowd gels with it.
I try.
You came out. You hit the ring after when Zach Ibiza was getting double teamed.
Yeah.
By Ray Torres
and his manager. Yeah.
And you came out there, and the crowd instantly chanted your name because they knew like it was business time.
They knew, yeah. They knew the hype's in the house, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You did the right thing. You came out there, helped dude out, and again, it's that personality that people are drawn to.
That's one of my favorite vibes is when you can still carry comedy and be taken seriously as an ass kicker without just doing one or the other.
There's a fine line to walk on it.
Yeah.
Joey Legend was the guy who actually talked to me about it because I was doing a lot of comedy in like early 2000s for a couple of promotions that had like a decent like actually in the Kalkaska area as a precursor to MCPW, and they had TV on like Fox on like 11 o'clock Monday nights, like sponsored by Mountain Dew and Labatt's. Like it was a guy who had like a couple hookups on the TV, and the great experience, great money. Just it was a good place for me to be at that time. I was one of the weaker people on the show because I was just inexperienced. I had to be local. They brought in a lot of great talent. And Joey Legend actually kind of pulled me aside, like, you got a good comedy thing going. As a heel, good to turn babyface. And he's like, you don't want to be Doink the Clown, though. And he's like, Doink the Clown's got, a 2-week run, and this guy, and I took what he said, I understood. You've got to be serious as well. And it was, at the time I realized I'm bigger than a lot of these guys, too. Maybe I could throw in elements of, like the Big Show, like, on a smaller scale. Because clearly I'm not, next to the Big Show, I'm the small guy. But, I'm 6'4".
You're pretty big
big
in our hearts.
That's right, thank you.
You're a giant in the industry.
My heart's big too, my doctor told me. I don't know what that means. But,
careful, if you get stabbed in the stomach, apparently means you're going to pump too much blood out of your stomach.
Yeah. But there's that line. I like the point when I get mad. Like, I can joke around, have fun. I like to have fun with the crowd. But when I get mad, damn it.
Yeah.
It's intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah, because ain't no games out here.
Were you did you follow Ring of Honor in the early 2000s? Like maybe between 5 and 10? 2005, 2010?
I watched a lot. It was hard to stay up on it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. But I bring it up because Cabana, who had always been kind of that line we're talking about, he finally got into a really heavy feud with Homicide
right?
of all people. Yeah. And they had like a 6-month feud. And I was in Chicago for their wrap-up match, which I think was like a 3 falls, death anywhere kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when Colt wrapped up that feud, it was so crazy too because like, he is this jovial guy, and you love him. He's this big teddy bear, and he had been pushed so far to go so dark and so violent. When he pins Homicide at the end, he gets that 3. He looks up, and he looked like he was going to cry. And I remember he looked at the referee and went like this, like prayer position, and just fell on the mat and like heaved like he was crying.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that all like I'm getting goosebumpy talking about that. It was such a nice punctuation of watching his arc, and it was like, you survived this ordeal. I can tell you're still Colt. You're tougher and you're meaner now. You got some marks on you. Yeah. But that was just like so magical because he never lost the Colt factor during all of that. Yeah, I think that was amazing.
I think he's a great example of comedy and wrestling in the sense that, like, what he does is funny, but it almost works. You can almost buy what he's doing is him mind games, tripping people up. And all this is a big giant trap and a master weave of a web that this guy's putting together. I actually met Colt in 1999. I think, we both had probably had less than 5 matches at that point, and he showed up in the promotion I'd started with. Mm-hmm. So we've got a couple early Colt Cabana matches. Dude was good right off the bat.
He played football at Western.
Yes, he did. Yep.
I was going to say, that'd be sweet if we could end up locking him down for an IPW show because, I mean, he's from Kalamazoo. Or he went to Western actually with my brother. My brother was baseball.
Okay.
He was football. But, yeah, regardless. You better start touching dicks!
You better start touching dicks right now!
That was
We're big fans of Riptide out of the UK.
Okay.
They do that real cool cinematic style with more like movie footage as opposed to
high def. Almost stuff.
And our favorite match is this hilarious 6-person. It's Mustache Mountain and Dunn versus Joey Ryan, Cabana, and Candice. It's like World's Cutest Tag Team. And obviously 90% of the match was around Joey trying to get people to touch his magical dick. Yeah. And at some point, he's in there and he's getting worked over. Cabana leans in and he screams. Who did he yell at? Was it Dunn? Or was it Tyler Bate?
Yeah.
But he gets right in the guy's face. Like, you better start touching that dick right now.
He just jumped in and got in his face. He didn't even hit him or nothing.
And actually, my favorite spot even beyond that was Pete Dunne, who's the most serious guy in the match. And they kept saying, touch his dick, touch his dick. And he's too tough for that. Yeah. Finally, he gets Ryan on his back. He puts his legs up like he's going to do the stomp. Pulls his mouthpiece out and he goes, I'm going to bite it. And everybody freaked out. And when those things happen, I always touch my heart because I'm like, Cornette would shit his pants if he was watching this. That's my metric. If he would hate it, I love it.
Yeah. So a lot of wrestling to get to this weekend. Before we wrap up,
and I don't want to sell the show again. My name is The Hype, but these are 2 really good shows. I do a lot of shows, and I wouldn't plug a lot of the shows this hard. These really are both going to be great shows. So check out one, if not both, if you can.
Right. Absolutely. That's why we're excited.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, that's why we're so excited about the fact that we have something that we can call our own here in Kalamazoo, because we don't get the big companies coming here anymore, apparently. And
I don't want them to. The fact that they didn't, it wasn't a choice. That was a failure of ticket sales.
Right.
If they were making money, they would have come.
Oh, again, I look at the last IPW show and how many people were there, and I was like, wow. This is pretty freaking good, especially considering that was the 3rd or 4th show there.
I think
there was October.
I think 4th.
I feel like it was 4th too.
Yeah, I did 2, and I think I missed 2.
Yeah.
Man, they packed the Y bar. It's a good problem. In a blizzard, they packed the Y bar.
Right, exactly.
I was
shitty
worried.
Weather.
I was worried. Yeah, man, you have 12 people tonight, man. It was bad. I wouldn't have left the house if I wasn't getting paid to be there.
Kalamazooans are used to driving through crazy amounts of snow.
Chip an inch of ice off my car before I left, but it was a great night, man. That was a great show, great crowd. And that's the problem right now is are they outgrowing the Y bar? That's a hell of a problem to have.
They're pretty close. They're getting close.
Yeah, exactly. It was getting pretty cozy in there last time. Before we split out, we wanted to touch on some of our favorite talkers, or some of the best talkers in the history of wrestling. And obviously, we don't need to talk about The Rock.
There's some pretty obvious ones, right?
It is pretty established that The Rock took microphone time to another level. And I think more leaning into personal favorites in terms of some of the guys who don't get as much love, or some guys who we feel should get the notoriety for the work that they did put in. And we were talking about this, and I just out of curiosity, and because I remember I had heard one promo, and I was like, I think if you typed out the Ultimate Warrior's promos, they would be like a Trump speech. If you type them all out, when you look at it and you're like, where did this conversation go?
There might be some kind of overarching main theme, but all these little snippets of barely sentences and
yes.
But it was awesome. Whatever he said was awesome.
Yeah. In 1990, I believe it was the 1990 Royal Rumble, and it was the year right before the Ultimate Challenge took place at the Sky Dome. This is what the Ultimate Warrior's promo read. If they refuse to understand that the power of the Ultimate Warrior has spread like a virus amongst the WWF, then let them continue to walk as normal as they seem.
The first part made sense to me. Oh, I see what he's trying to say. He's like, if normal for them means they're fully injected with the power of Warrior Mania or whatever he called it, then just let them keep, that's fine. Just keep walking.
Just keep walking. Very complex fucking thing to tell somebody.
If you feel this and you've been injected with my virus and you can keep walking normal, then just keep walking normal.
Someone needs to begin wrestling as the understated warrior and just do old warrior promos like you just did.
Yeah.
And just let everyone
we've already got an idea for it. Are we doing the bit right now? Because I challenged you to bring in, I think this is hilarious. I said, type out an entire promo from the Warrior.
Yeah.
And then write your own as crazy as possible.
Oh, shit, I didn't do
Let's
that.
read them both and see if we can tell which one's which.
That's freaking hilarious. I would gladly do that. No, the Macho Man one, we finally found the funniest freaking Macho Man interview ever. Because it kept getting deleted off of YouTube, and it's the one, like, he wasn't one to follow script anyways, but he doesn't follow any kind of script but the one that's playing in his head. And I just love the end of it when he just disappears and Okerlund's like, Macho Man, can I ask you one? No more questions! He's fucking gone. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, man.
He comes out and he's like, here's a man who's gone 180 degrees. 180 degrees! But he's also done another 360! And then he does like a coke snort. And then he's like, you have changed, sir, like I can not believe. And he's like, I'm a chameleon.
I do remember that. I'm a
talking about the beat goes on. And the beat goes on. And the beat goes on. Yeah, in the video scope, I am looking at you right now. Macho Madness right now. Sugar is sweet and so is honey. Macho Madness is on a roll and it can't be stopped. No, Elizabeth understands what I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh, God. And then he goes into Honky Tonk Man. And you know he's fucking just living it up.
Cocaine was a hell of a drug.
Oh my God.
Man, his the yesterday's Tito Santana, yesterday's news.
Right.
Cup of good, like just all this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I lost my voice road trip once doing Randy Savage for like 3 straight hours.
Oh my God.
And it was just like the late 90s explaining his. It was the pitch to Eric Bischoff, just my own problem. The pitch to Eric Bischoff to have three valets.
Yeah.
You see, Eric, everybody's already seen Elizabeth, so I think the Macho Man needs to be a little more macho, not 1 step, but 2. Yeah, I see 3 valets. Snap into it. Let me tell you what, you got Miss Madness.
I started losing my voice.
Right.
I did it for 3 hours and lost my voice for a week.
Somehow Macho never lost his voice doing Macho.
Right.
Oh.
Mark, did you ever hear that? We're not going to get deep into this, but did you ever hear the Savage story of when he was in a Waffle House down south?
Oh, man.
And
No,
he was
I don't
late
think
at
so.
night. He was ordering his food, and it was basically empty. And then in came these 2, like, Southern hillbilly types, and they announced, we just got married. And everybody inside, like, woo! Like, smallish area, they knew this.
Yeah.
Savage was hungry and mad. He looks at the guy, and he goes, who gives a fuck?
Nobody gives a fuck about you and your stupid marriage. The Macho Man wants his Belgian waffle, and he doesn't want to wait.
Well, I'll tell you who cared. They started to fist fight. The cops got called.
Oh, my God.
Savage wound up fighting cops and beating up a dog.
Oh, my God.
He said, they sent in the dog on him.
Yeah, and he beat the dog up.
Think you got me, K9? baby.
And they said he used to actually go pick fights in public to make the papers because that was how they promoted.
Oh,
He
yeah,
was
no
crazy man.
Yeah, why not?
Would fight a police dog.
I think that may be my favorite part of that particular interview. He's like, let me
so
tell you
funny.
something right now. We're talking about the greatest intercontinental heavyweight champion to ever lived. The Honky Tonk Man is out of line. Yeah, 'cause I am the greatest intercontinental heavyweight champion to ever live, and I am the greatest professional wrestler to ever live, and I'm living now. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Seriously.
That
what
guy
the
was that in an era of like amazing guys. That dude was on another level.
Oh, easily. And on the lower spectrum of that, someone who didn't have to scream and yell, man,
Jake the Snake.
Jake the Snake
There it
Roberts.
is.
Holy shit. Just a natural, just someone who just bring it right freaking down. Bring it right down to his level.
I rode with Jake a couple years ago to a show.
Really?
It was in northern Michigan, and he got picked up in Grand Rapids, and we okayed it with Jake. He's okay. We have 2 other wrestlers in the back seat. The guy was picking him up.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, sure. So we get there. I don't want to hijack with the Jake story.
No. Yeah, go for it.
So we get there, and the wrestler picking him up signals to me and my partner, Max Morrison. We're there in my car in the parking lot meeting, and he pulls up and comes over to the car, and he goes, okay, so just, Jake's on a Vision Quest. I forget what he calls it. Something like a Vision Quest.
Yeah.
Vision Quest right now. So we can't talk in the car at all. I'm going to drive separate. It's fine. Don't worry about it. He's like, no, please don't leave me alone with him. I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, we can't talk to each other. He's like, no, we can't. We have to have pure silence in the car for the next 2 hours.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, my God, no. And I look over. Now Jake's flipping us off. And I'm like, he got us. So then Jake, we stopped and got food. He ate a pizza and smoked a cigarette while telling us how gluten was wrong. And it was the cause of all the problems. And again, now I'm not sure if this guy's just messing with us.
Just ribbing you?
I believe he was just ribbing us.
He might not know that gluten is entirely pizza. That's all it's made of is gluten.
Right. Either way, he smoked it, which was phenomenal. The best part of it. It was he was nice but standoffish until we got to the show. We did the show. He ended up watching our matches. He liked us. We got out of there and started joking and just kind of we got along at that point. And just good dude. Demolition Smash was on the show. I remember him pulling Smash aside. It was only we could hear him. And he was really putting over the DDP yoga stuff. He's like, this will change your life. This really is a thing. It's not a gimmick. Yada yada. It really sold him. And that's what sold me on the thing was hearing them discuss it. Wrestler selling something, it's a word. I always, I have that layer built up over the years.
Sure.
But I did that. The ride back was super fun, man. We ended up getting along, joking, just the boys in the car. It was really nice. He gave me his number, invited me to come down to Georgia to train. That's cool. It would have been amazing 5 years before when I would have done it. I was just kind of past that point in my run where I'm not going to Georgia to train. It wasn't where pro wrestling was not going to be the occupation for life for me at that point. I had already decided. I was like, man, that would have been phenomenal.
Was it Stone Mountain, Georgia?
No, wherever DDP's house was. He invited me there.
Oh, DDP's
whatever that was. Jake was cool though at that point. I'll defend Jake. He took us out to the end of the night. We were gonna drop him off. He's like, let's go get dinner, guys. I got nothing to do. So we went out, bought us all dinner. Everyone else got cheap entree, and I'm getting a steak. The hell with this.
Right, exactly.
and he gave me shit for it the rest of the night. But yeah, Jake, I like phenomenal dude.
That's cool. And we actually locked down an interview with him in sometime in the future. Tremendous. So yeah, we talked.
He won't remember me if you bring him up.
Yes. Well, maybe that's what I'm saying. If we can get him a show in Kalamazoo for a stand-up, then we're gonna have him in the studio. That's the ideal situation, rather than do a phoner, because we want to.
Oh yeah.
We'd love to just actually talk to people. It's easier for me to make a connection if I'm talking to someone directly. I have a little bit hard time engaging someone over the phone that I've never met before.
Yeah, I understand.
But regardless, it's a great opportunity that we're looking forward to. That's cool that he, especially after making that lifestyle change, that things are really going well for him. Because good Lord, for years and years, we were just. I personally, I was worried because I'm like, he's one of the greatest of all time, and he didn't. There wasn't much about him that was flashy, or because he didn't need that. He had a purely natural wrestler.
Yeah, by being something different. It's one of those things in wrestling that I always look for. He wasn't doing what everyone, crazy screaming promo like everyone else did. He did the quiet promo immediately and a little bit to hear what he had to say. Jake was, oh man. Stuff like he quoted song lyrics all the time is a psychological way to make you agree with something he's saying, like you've heard it before, because you've heard it before,
playing on that familiarity piece.
A Scooby song or something. Yeah, just genius level stuff, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
I make no promises that when we do interview him, that I won't, start talking about pizza and gluten and seeing if he knows that there's gluten in pizza. I'll keep it on the slide.
He's like, is he screwing with us again? I think he's screwing with us.
I'll be subtle about it. This is kind of an obvious one, but God, this guy's a legend. I know Bobby Heenan stands out as arguably one of the best, if not the best, talking managers of all time.
Yeah,
I would go ahead and say that Heyman is up there on the same level. You put a guy in a ring, he's one of those guys. He can just go and go and go. And I love the way that he'll talk up and get people starting to kind of cheer him. And he'll immediately turn them right back off. He'll talk them back up. He'll turn them right back off. I got to say, I thought Lesnar's career, for the most part, aside from some real high peaks of excitement, it's been a whole lot of boring stretches. And if Heyman hadn't been there to sell every second of the way, Heyman.
Lesnar. That's a rough run.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd give you Heyman just for his Rock stuff, but people forget dude's been doing this since like 86, 87.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like,
he was
even
young
think
when
about
he got
back
in.
in ECW, remember when they had the issue with Sabu, and he had to go in the ring and shoot a real interview and just shoot a real promo to the crowd.
Oh, wow. He
And-
stood us up. He's disappointed
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Like,
and that wasn't nothing about that was planned or scripted or anything. He just came out there and spoke his mind, and the fact that he was able to do it so clearly, I mean, just has that natural ability to convey to you how he's feeling.
People bought everything. As a fan, you bought everything Paulie said in ECW because he was honest with us.
Right.
Probably wasn't honest with us a whole lot, to be honest, as a fan in hindsight. He sure wasn't honest with a lot of the cats.
He's
Paycheck-wise.
convincing.
But yeah.
I think the thing I love about him, too, aside from just the talking, he's one of those dudes that got into wrestling through photography when he was real young. I think he was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
And he just was perseverant. He just always stuck around. He stuck around. Eventually, he got to know the people. I think they decided, did he do like ring announcing or something for a hot second? But by that time, he was like 21, 22. He was on the
He
air.
was promoting like Bam Bam Bigelow at Studio 54.
Yeah,
Like,
because
That's
he was
what
working
it
with
was.
Studio 54
Yeah.
for a bit.
Yeah, and then that's
way
how,
after the heyday.
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah.
But-
He was the first guy carrying that big brick of a cell phone. You know,
Yeah.
he was playing on that whole Wall Street thing. I like that, though, when people like wiggle their way in and they make an entire huge career out of just opportunity. You know, finding it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
Cornette's another guy who did that same thing. You know, same run.
I know.
He's not as fun these days, but dude could talk.
Oh, but God, absolutely, he can.
Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty's on my list.
Man, everyone talks about Hard Times as a promo, but for Dusty Rhodes, Hard Times is just a Tuesday, man. He cut those promos every week in every town, and dude, he is.
Well, the other thing,
level.
when we have these conversations, we don't just say best, out of everybody. We also sometimes say Dusty was very limited in terms of move set, but he wasn't limited as a worker.
Yeah.
He would work his ass
Oh
off.
man, yeah.
But yeah, he really sold, like his speaking and his sellability and his character to me was light years ahead of how many moves can you do and how clean, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so to me, that chasm between his mic skill and the other is just massive. And to me, that's why he really stands out, because his whole career, I think, really was based on talking people into the building. Yeah. What about Cena?
Dude, Cena's awesome.
And that's the thing. Cena, he just sucked everybody in, especially with the ruthless aggression.
That was my favorite Cena.
When he would just come out and just start cooking dudes left and right.
Shit talk.
That the rapper era for him was
Yeah.
kinda like, oh, this is and then man, he wasn't always amazing. He mailed, I don't say mailed it in, but he did the comedy stuff a lot, and people hated that. He needs to be more serious.
He was corny, though.
He
the
was.
thing. Yeah.
But when he needed to bring it, when it was that week to sell this thing that needs to be sold this time, boom, that's when he brought it. If he brought it every week, it set a line of what you expected.
Right.
But he could
Yeah.
turn it up and turn it down when he wanted to, which I always thought was amazing. I think Cena's the best ace of all time. Like, over Hogan, over Austin, I'll take him for that company.
Wow.
His longevity, just everything he did,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Look at his gates. Look at his overall money.
In this era, every week, like Hogan, you saw once every 4 or 5 months. Cena twice a week for most of that 10-year run he did.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy.
I'm not a big Cena supporter necessarily per his work, but he's another one of those guys where I know he did high school bodybuilding, and he did that because he knew he wanted to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say he could have done steroids back then. He could have done them whenever. The fact that he almost never got injured, though, and he had such sustainability, tells me that he did get that big and strong very naturally.
Yeah.
And that's why he was able to sustain that way.
I think the greatest moment in pro wrestling in the last 20 years is John Cena's return at the Royal Rumble.
That was big.
That was
when he faced off with Triple H.
Well, yeah, when he popped up.
Oh, was that the
yeah.
surprise return?
Surprise return?
yeah,
My
yeah.
buddy of mine asked, "What was the coolest thing ever at the Royal Rumble?" A couple weeks ago, and I was like, I thought for a second, I go, that was. I think that's the biggest thing since the Hogan Andre stare down, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I can make that argument. No, the Austin Rock beer cheersing before WrestleMania 19, I think was really cool, like an iconic. That was the Attitude Era in one scene. Boom, those two staring each other down, drinking a beer.
True.
But that scene, I think, has been the moment since then. Cena coming back at the Rumble, because the whole crowd doesn't even buy it. Like, no,
Right.
no, and then he pops up and boom, blows up, and then they forget that they're supposed to boo John Cena until he's throwing punches. And they have to
Right,
boo him.
right.
Like, oh god, we gotta be cool and boo John Cena.
Isn't that such a beautiful, magical thing in wrestling, though? Whether you're a heel, usually it's you go away as an injured heel.
Yeah.
And you could be despised. And then you show up by surprise a couple months later, and you are infinitely over. I love that. It's like people are like, okay, fine, we forgive you, we love you, we've missed you. I think that's really cute.
Hell yeah. Well, Hype, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me again,
absolutely. We'll look forward to having you back again and seeing you again in IPW. Much love. Appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you again next week. Deuces.
See you.